Gleeboot.
Last week, we met Damien McGinty as Rory Flanagan, who sang It's Not Easy Being Green, and they sang a Christina Aguilera bop, and that's what you missed on Gleeboot.
They sang Christina Aguilera? I totally forgot.
Candyman.
That's right. I literally was like, they sing Beautiful again? That's not really a bop. That's a crying song.
It doesn't attach Christina Aguilera's name with any particular face or song. So I just know the name is its own standalone thing, but I don't know.
Christina Aguilera, she's very interesting because if you look at her back in like the 90s, early 2000s, she looks totally different than she does now. Like, it's kind of crazy.
But that's when she was really popular, right? 90s and early 2000s?
That's when she's like first became popular.
Okay,
I think she's still relatively popular. I don't know when the last time she had an album out, but I don't really follow that kind of stuff.
I feel like it's been a minute. But...
That was our Christina Aguilera corner.
Welcome to Gleeboot, the show where we get drunk and talk about rebooting Glee one episode at a time. I'm Cullen.
Alyssa.
And I'm Hannah.
And we have a special guest,
Ginger,
a returning special guest.
Yay.
You couldn't tell, but I was doing jazz hands.
This is definitely a visual medium.
That's important to convey.
Yes.
Yes, jazz hands.
But for anyone who is wondering, there's a reason that people keep doing things. It's because we've switched to from complete audio to video and audio so we can see each other as we're talking. Which means we do things like talk with our hands and, things that you can't see, but we can see.
I miss being able to picture Alyssa's hand gestures, being like, I'm picturing her doing a lot of things, but now I get to actually see it and then explain it to people.
Yes.
What's even better than seeing it is hearing Hannah explain it.
Yeah, exactly. That's what the people want.
There we go.
Seeing is believing, and believing is Hannah explaining it to you.
Although, apparently, we're going to be having a TikTok that's going to have a lot of me on it. Because I don't know why, but I just am.
The TikTok is budding. It's a new TikTok. Follow us on TikTok, guys. Gleeboot Pod.
I'm going to follow you right now.
Yeah, Ginger's pretty active on the TikTok. Is that what the kids call it?
Pretty active means scrolling through it every single night before I go to bed for 3 hours, then yeah.
And unsolicitedly sending me Glee TikToks at, again, said 3 a.m.
Again, unsolicited, but really, is it unsolicited?
Yes. I did not ask for it. I did not want. Although some of them are like, okay, this is kind of good. I mean, there's some pretty funny people out there.
People agree with your opinion on Will Schuester, okay, and you just needed to know.
Yeah,
you had to know.
Glee literally just lets people unleash all their baggage.
Speaking of baggage, what are we drinking today?
That's a great segue. I am drinking this wonderful $10 Rioja wine. It's a red wine. Ginger is finishing up a Chianti that I had, and then she will be moving on to the Rioja.
Mm-hmm. Both Cullen and I are drinking Stella Artois Solstice Lager.
Ooh, what does that taste like?
It basically tastes like Stella Artois, but it's a little bit more sour.
It tastes like the solstice, Hannah.
Duh.
Yeah,
I love Stella.
The solstice tastes like sour Stella.
But like a good sour.
Yeah.
Okay, not like this has been rotten.
No, but the way you describe a sour beer.
Right.
Yeah.
Like a whiskey sour, not like a sour apple. Wait.
Yeah.
I like those.
Yes.
Sour milk. Sour apples,
milk.
I guess.
There you
go.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I was like. Is it sour beer or a sour?
My brain was thinking sour worm, but then I was like, people are just going to think I mean sour gummy worms and those are delicious. But then I was like, a worm in an apple makes it sour. And then I was like, a sour apple is just a green apple. People like those.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you use them to make apple pie.
Not necessarily infested with worms.
Not always.
Not always, but sometimes.
So we're gathered today to talk.
We are gathered here today. I think you started off last week's episode the same way.
Yeah.
We're gathered here today. Are we always in mourning now?
It could be a celebration of marriage.
Oh, okay. I always think funerals.
Mean of the marriage in West Side Story?
Yeah, there you go.
Boy.
One hand, one heart, baby. So yeah, we're talking about the episode, season 3, episode 5, The Audacity of Artie Abrams. I mean, the first time.
For real.
Yeah, no, a lot of audacious things happening with him. Everyone's sex guru.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Because
yes.
we just have to be reminded that he can, in fact, have sex.
That's what we gathered from that storyline. We're like, okay, we get it. As if you haven't talked about that 50 times in the past 3 years. So
the episode opens with Artie going down the hallway talking about like, this is what enlightenment feels like. I'm a director and I know what I'm doing. I just like, it's about having strong opinions on everything, even if you don't know what you're talking about. It shows him picking this hideous dress for Rachel. Yeah, it's got like flowers on the bust area, and it looks like Joanne floral section threw up on one of Emma's nightgowns.
Oh no, it's accurate.
Yes. Well, let's be honest here. He's not entirely wrong when he says that's what a director does.
He's not. As a person, I was telling Hannah that, like, I felt like this was a good episode for me to be on as a person with a theater degree. Because I was just like, you know, the amount of directors that I've worked under, 90% of them were in Artie.
Yeah.
Cullen's not an Artie, though.
Thanks.
Cullen's a Cullen.
Yes.
But even just people of authority, it's like the basic rule, you know, if you act like you know what you're doing, people generally maybe don't assume that you know what you're doing, but they treat you like you know what you're doing.
Yeah. So he's going down the hall, he's all excited, and then we cut to rehearsals. They're singing Tonight.
Hannah was also singing.
Was I? Did I sing?
Yeah.
Oh, I think I blacked out and I was singing along.
I
do
sing
like that song.
Every single song that was from West Side Story.
Okay, I have something to confess. 2 things, actually. 1, I haven't seen West Side Story in years. 2, I was watching this and I was like, I don't think I like West Side Story's music, or I just don't like this rendition. So I had a bit of a conundrum.
Interesting.
On the other
hand, I
hand,
actually really like West Side Story.
I was watching this thinking, oh my God, Rachel can sing. Why are they making her sing in this nasal pop voice for everything? And then they put her in this show and it's like, oh, she can actually sing. This makes sense.
Yeah, she had that theater vibrato and it was something.
I like
they
it.
They were
I
not
thought
on
she sounded
yet.
lovely.
3 days before
the
first show, they weren't off the sheets.
How long was this? Okay, at what point of the school year are we? How long was this rehearsal? How long do rehearsals take in high school?
2 to 3 months.
Yeah,
right, like a semester.
At least 8 weeks.
Yeah.
We are maybe in November in this world. In the real world also, and the Glee world. Because, like, it just... No, we can't even be that far. It just, I don't know. It kind of felt like they obviously had, like, 3 days of rehearsals, and then they all of a sudden were just doing it.
Because of 3 episodes of rehearsals.
Yeah, that's kind of what it was.
Well, they had like 3 episodes of auditions, and then they're like, no more, no rehearsal. It's just time for the show.
Yeah, it was so confusing.
And so they're singing it in front of Beast, Emma, and Artie, and they're just sitting there, and it made me remember that there's usually a position called the music director, and the music director would focus on the singing, and the director would pop in and out for the singing sessions, at least from my experience.
Yes, we had that too. And to be fair, that should have been Mr. Shu technically, because it was always our choir teacher.
I bet they gave that kind of. I guess they gave Artie both because he was in Glee Club. I could see it, but yeah, definitely not explained.
Or they just didn't want to pay Mr. Shu for the episode.
Yeah, he was barely there. Literally, like, halfway through the episode, I was like, wait a second, we haven't seen Schuster at all. This is great.
Well, he can't focus on the musical. He has to focus on Glee.
Yeah. This episode, there's a show that is about a Glee Club, and it's not about the Glee Club at all.
I will say Hannah was wrong. Sorry to call you out. I was I don't have any. I don't remember like what was going on. Who is this gonna be about? Like, whose first time is this gonna be? And she was like, "It's Shu and Emma." And I was like, "Oh God!"
I bet.
Honestly,
I'm glad I'm wrong.
That was my guess also when I saw the title. When we were talking about the title last episode.
Yes.
I immediately thought that it was going to be Shu and Emma. But it wasn't.
Really?
Yeah.
It took me a little while to remember what the title was called. Because I was like, I don't even know what this episode's called. And then, after they're singing or whatever, and Beast is like, oh my God, that was beautiful. And Emma was like, oh my God, that was beautiful. And Artie's like, you guys aren't sexy enough. And I was like, oh my God, this episode's called The First Time. There are going to be people having sex for the first time.
Yeah, so this is the first moment of the audacity of Artie Abrams. He's just crying. Emma's only note is more teeth, which I just loved as a joke. And then Artie's like, West Side Story, and this song is about sexual
you repeated it. Now it's really funny.
Wait, what's the joke? I think I'm missing it.
Just my one note is more teeth.
Okay.
It's okay.
I don't know what's happening.
I am here with you, Hannah.
It's just funny.
But why is it funny?
Because, like,
somebody explain it.
Why have more teeth?
When
like,
you're smiling.
Oh, does she want to?
It's just a weird thing to say.
The only thing that I could think of that would make this a joke is if it somehow like refers to her relationship with a dentist.
Oh.
I just thought it was just kind of like a funny, like quirky Emma thing to say.
I thought she was just telling them to smile bigger.
I don't think
maybe that's her way of just being like, you should smile more.
Yeah.
If they're singing a song. Never mind. At what point in West Side Story do you smile?
It's not like a happy play.
Yeah.
Tonight's kind of a happy song, though.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They're in love.
Yeah.
It's their sexual awakening, if you will.
Says Artie. And then in front of the goddamn teachers says, have either of you had sex or whatever? And I'm like, then the teachers just get up
and leave.
They're not like, Artie, this is super inappropriate. You shouldn't be talking about this. They just get up and leave. And I'm like,
yeah, he doesn't actually say the line. He definitely fully implies it.
Yeah, he's like, have you either? And then that's it.
So I will say, I also felt as though his implications, based on how he phrased his sentences that followed, were very much like not believing that ace people exist.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah.
He was very much like...
I feel like this show doesn't think that that's a real thing.
Yeah.
The entire show, not just Artie.
Yeah.
I was saying to Hannah earlier, like, I almost feel like Emma is ace representation for at least part of her self-discovery is that.
Yeah.
I don't think she counts as representation because because her lack of sexual desire isn't treated as normal.
It's treated much more as like, this is her weird mental illness.
Yeah.
Like, oh, she's so OCD that she doesn't like germs, so she can't have sex.
Yeah.
So it's not great regardless.
Yeah, I remember this scene from when I was a kid and like when it was on, and I remember being offended then, and I was offended now. But
I just can't believe the teachers didn't stop him. Emma gets up, Beast gets up, and I'm like, why is this happening?
and so there, Blaine and Rachel are like, oh, we just haven't found the right time, and Rachel's all like, oh, Blaine, I'm so glad you're my Tony, and he's like, how are you supposed to represent the human experience as actors if you haven't opened yourself up to one of humanity's most basic and primal urges?
Yep, that's the line.
He says to two 17-year-olds.
As a fellow, like a 16 or 17-year-old.
I just would like to say,
PSA,
the entire existence of acting and theater is about conveying things you haven't experienced. You are literally lying for a living. I rest my case.
Very true.
Yeah. And Rachel had this exact same like thought when she went to like date Blaine. She was like, oh my God, I haven't lived, so I can't write a song for our Glee club. I'm going to go date a gay man. And yeah.
I want in the Gleeboot, they're doing the Little Mermaid, and Artie will be like, how can either of you convey what it's like to be a mermaid if you've never been a mermaid yourself?
And then they all have to like crawl around in like mermaid getup.
But for a second, let's just talk about the very real standard that this has in the arts. In acting, in even like in writing, in two-dimensional art, three-dimensional art, what am I going for? Traditional arts. It's if you haven't had very passionate experiences, then you can't make passionate art. And if you don't have passionate art, you're not an artist.
That's kind of even goes into like psychology of theater in general and the big disagreements in like the world of theater on like what's proper and what should constitute proper acting, because there's this whole side of things that are like method acting, and then there's this other side of things that they're like you realize that that's going to ruin your mental health. What are you doing?
Yeah, I've always thought that about method acting.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, like it's kind of, I don't know, like I think in this episode I'm hitting a couple walls where I'm like, oddly enough, I'm like, I don't even want to spend brain time exploring this, because I'm like, this is honestly just the show talking through naive teenagers and just saying stuff, and maybe not necessarily just like making actual claims or like saying actual points. So this is one of those where I'm like, I don't know, does the show actually mean this, or are they just being like, oh, they're just kids, they don't know any better?
I've had that experience though, where I've been pressured to become a more adventurous, exciting person because I needed to have something better, quote unquote, to say with my art.
Yeah.
No, fuck off.
Yeah,
leave me
like,
to live my life.
That's the thing is, like, I don't think the show actually thinks that. I think they're just trying to like give these kids like
a reason for them to have sex.
That, but I think they're like using them as like a vehicle to express different ideas in general. Like, obviously I think that's, you know, the show, but I think like in this episode especially, I've thought a lot about like, does the show believe this? Do they want people to think this, or are they just using the naivete of the kids to like explore different ideas?
I would argue that the show does believe this.
Oh, okay.
From everything I've seen of the show and how they're going to treat certain characters later on, and just from what I know about Ryan Murphy's body of work.
Valid.
And I think just like it's hard because like what being liberal or progressive is now is very different than how it was back in the early Obama era. I think it was like kind of like it was trying to be so sex positive that it was very much like if you don't have sex, that means you're like a fuddy-duddy.
Right.
I would agree with that. Like, I always have these very, like, intense reactions when I'm rewatching Glee. Like, how in the world did they get away with this? Or, like, what were they even thinking? And then I think back to, like, when it aired, I'm like, this was actually, like, kind of a big deal when it aired, being like, this is representation that didn't exist at the time. Like,
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
not that they did a great job with it, and not that it aged very well. But, you know, like, it's one of, I think it's kind of, it, for example, like Rocky Horror Picture Show, the modern, quote unquote, the modern queer is very, like, the, you know, the Gen Zers and younger are very much like, how could people like such a horrible film that's like, you know, super, God, very bad moral principles, and they're not referring to people with the proper, you know, the proper terms that they want to be called as these days. And it's like, well, back when this show first happened, that was the name that people were wanting to be referred to as.
Yeah.
Or that was just the language.
That was the language that was used, and this show was such a phenomena for, like, queer identifying individuals that were like, we finally have something, you know?
Yeah.
So I think it is kind of important to keep that kind of context in mind, especially with Glee, because it was so different culturally just within this, like, decade.
Yeah. No, I would agree. I think that's a really good example to like explain the Glee phenomenon. Yeah, so that happens. So Artie is like, Rachel and Blaine, if you haven't had sex, you can't convey this role about a street. I just basically, Maria is extremely innocent.
Yeah, I was gonna say I'm fairly certain that they're both virgins in West Side Story.
This musical does not strike me as like sexual energy. Not even in that song. Like, it's more like romantic longing, which is not the same thing.
Well, and when Artie said sexual awakening, I was kind of like, I have a little bit of an issue with that, because
I think he thought they were doing Spring Awakening suddenly.
That's what I was gonna say. Yeah, they're doing Spring Awakening. Yeah.
Which, you know, honestly, this episode's theme would fit Spring Awakening so much better than Rent.
Yeah.
Then
West Side
Story.
Oh, did I say Rent?
Yeah.
Yes, you did.
I was also thinking Rent too, that like that musical is, I mean, and like maybe not, I guess maybe high schools might, obviously, like the streamlined abridged version, but like, it was Fiora out there. But like, it does not strike me, that song especially just does not strike me as any type of sexual.
I'm trying to figure out what the most sexual scene in like West Side Story is, and
sex is implied at one point, because I was at a dinner party once where someone implied that Tony was going to hell because he had premarital sex.
Well, where is
what
that
dinner
implication?
I would like to know.
And I was just gonna like, that's what you took away from West Side Story?
Yep. Exactly.
I don't remember. I think there's a scene where like they're together and he leaves and there's like an unmade bed.
Oh my gosh.
Oh,
I remember this. No, I definitely remember this. Yeah, like they're gonna find them together and then he like climbs out the window.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. I remember it now.
So it's like very implied, but this is like, when was West Side Story? Like the
60s?
60s. Yeah, like it's just like,
it's implied, but like they're both fully clothed and it's really, it's
that's
like
what you do after you have sex. You put all your clothes back on.
And then you lay on top of the covers together.
Yep, exactly.
Like,
that's what happens. I don't know how anyone else has sex. That's how I do it. I stay fully clothed.
You know, Hannah, I respect that.
Thanks. I don't want to be immoral.
This just goes to show you sex and romance are two different things.
Yes. So anyways, so this was just like the first scene. Oh my god.
Yeah,
But there's a lot to unpack in this,
There
in this statement.
And then that just keeps building, and we're like, why? Why is this happening?
So Rachel and Blaine are both basically thinking, okay, maybe I should have sex. So let's talk about Blaine and Kurt's storyline first.
Okay.
So Blaine goes back to Dalton to give the Warblers tickets to West Side Story.
Baffling.
Which we
baffling
don't
decision.
find that out. We don't find that out until like
The end.
the end of like a 5-minute scene.
Baffling idea, but sure, because they wanted the Warblers to sing again. Sure.
Honestly, sometimes
You just need some Warblers
I
in your
just need
life.
some fan service, and to me, fan service is the Warblers singing.
Hey.
So I didn't mind it at all.
I sing along to the
Uptown
song.
Girl,
Yes, it
my
was
favorite
good.
song in all of Glee. So you know what's
Really?
worth it to me.
Better than
Wow.
Teenage Dream. Do
No.
you think Sebastian's?
No,
on-screen
okay. You know
appearance
what?
is
They're
better?
both in my tops. Probably all of my tops are on that Warblers album I got when I was a kid.
That's all the wine that's left.
Oh, we'll share it.
It's about 1 inch, people who cannot see the glass.
Yeah.
It's a whole bottle. It's not. It's like maybe a 4th cup.
Yeah.
Yes.
Anyway.
I really like this song, but I did not like it when the female teacher entered.
Yeah,
and they
what
were
was
all
that?
saying
What was that?
her-
What was that?
I don't
Cullen,
know.
explain it to me.
It was gross.
So they're singing Uptown Girl, and then the French teacher walks by.
How do you know she's French teacher?
She was carrying a book that said like learning French.
Yeah, honestly,
I didn't.
they
see
should
that.
have given more context than that, because I thought she was a student, and then I realized that
an
this is an
all-boys school.
all-male school, and I was just like, maybe that's just the female students' uniform.
No. And I'm like, no, those are students flirting with the teacher.
A teacher who also looks like a student.
They all are adults. They're all 30 years old.
She has the whole
They're
bookish
30.
thing going on with the
Yeah,
glasses.
she's like a sexy librarian.
And yeah, exactly.
Maybe
That's
she's a
exactly what it
librarian, 'cause
is.
She was carrying, but she
shushed them, and I was like,
carrying
they're the
books
Glee Club.
like I'm a teacher going to class. She was carrying books like I'm going to hope nobody kicks me when I go in my locker. Like she was holding them in front of her.
Ooh.
Like
Question.
Yeah.
Does Dalton have lockers? I don't think so.
well, they
We
live there,
haven't
right? Is it
seen
boarding school?
any, but
Or is it not?
could be in a different
Who knows?
hallway.
It's an all boys school.
So we don't know if it's a boarding school or anything. We don't know if they live there. We don't know anything except I think they just carry everything around in fashionable satchels.
They wear
Yeah.
uniforms.
That's
Yeah.
it.
Susie just headbutted me.
Oh, she loved you.
I made her a new collar. Anyone who's
I
interested
saw.
can look on Instagram.
It's super cute.
It has a little bow on it.
Yeah. So I saw that woman walk on the screen, and I was like, oh no, this woman's about to be sexually harassed.
But she was into it, she really wanted it.
It's funny because
Oh
throughout
my
that song, my thought was, yes, of course, Blaine conveniently knows the choreography. And then I was like, yes, of course, this teacher, I guess, conveniently knows the choreography.
So they're like singing and flirting with her. We meet the Flash himself.
Oh my gosh, I
God.
saw him and I was like, before the Flash was the Flash, he was
on
Warbler.
Glee.
Yeah, I think this is probably one of his first roles, right?
Yeah.
I think this is probably what got him onto that show.
This,
Because there's another person later on who will have a similar professional arc.
yes.
Hmm.
So we see Sebastian Smythe, the
What a
Dickensian villain.
pretentious name.
It's a Dickensian
I also
name.
need you to know that my
I
phone,
don't
when I
know
was
what
taking
that
notes,
means.
autocorrected Sebastian to
Sebastian.
Sebastian.
It was
Sebastian.
very aggressive. Like accents
Like
and everything.
accents.
It was very aggressive.
Like he's out of a Charles Dickens novel. Like the
Yeah.
character, the name.
I've never read Dickens.
Yeah, no, we were forced to, honestly.
Yeah, it was part of school. So Sebastian is there, and I really want this to be the Flash's real backstory.
Right?
Was that he was the
Please.
antagonist to a Midwestern show choir?
I believe it.
And then he became a superhero. But either way, so he introduces himself to Blaine, and Blaine is like, "Oh, are you a freshman?" And he's like, "Do I look like a freshman?" And then
What kind of answer question?
I was uncomfy when he said that. I was like, I don't know, you're all 30. Like,
Yeah.
It was like very passive aggressive, and I was just like, immediately bells are going off in my head. This is a bad person. Run away, Blaine.
Dripping sexuality.
Which, according to Ryan Murphy, no, it is evil.
It is.
Wait, sexuality is evil? Or dripping sexuality?
Being promiscuously sexual.
Yeah.
Oh, so be sexual, but not too sexual. Mm-hmm. Otherwise, you're going to hell.
Be sexual within these limits that Ryan Murphy has set for you.
What if I don't like that box?
Ryan Murphy's word is love.
What if I don't like that box? Yes.
Yeah.
I love that. So he's talking with Blaine. Meanwhile, it cuts to West Side Story rehearsals, and Santana and Rachel are singing "A Boy Like That." And like so it's like creating this ominous atmosphere to Sebastian, because he's like asking about Blaine, and he's like, "Oh, I'm sorry I missed him, and sorry I missed you. Like, I'm glad to meet you." It's a pretty
clever setup, actually. I was like, okay, I get what's going on here. I like this. I thought it was a good pair of scenes.
Also, side note, Santana killed it.
Amazing.
She did.
Yeah.
I actually kind of feel the opposite way that you did, Hannah. Whereas I like the song, but I don't like how they used it juxtaposed in that scene. Just because I don't think it's a good parallel, really.
I would agree in that the parallel is, in A Boy Like That, she's wrong. She's saying Tony is bad news when, as the audience, we're supposed to think he's not. But as the audience, we're supposed to think Sebastian is bad news.
I guess that comes from my not having seen that show in a really long time.
Well, I mean, but the interesting thing is that
it's also a bit on the nose too. Like, we could tell Sebastian was evil.
His name was Sebastian Smythe.
Yeah, like that fucker is evil.
There was an accent in his name.
So when Rachel sings the latter part of Maria's part of that song, she's like telling Santana that she's wrong about Tony. I can't remember Santana's
Anita,
yes. Anita, that she's wrong about Tony. And that's when it starts to create some dissonance for me in that scene, because there's no, like you said, Cullen, there's no parallel for that with this Sebastian Smythe thing.
Yeah.
If they had just stopped the song before Maria starts singing. No, she starts singing to Anita about how he is not a bad person.
Oh yeah, they cut the song in half still, but they did leave part of Maria's stuff. You're right.
Well, one could suggest that maybe it's like one side is sort of the show warning us about Sebastian, and then Maria is sort of Blaine's inner monologue of being interested in him and thinking better of him. That's a bit too much for Glee, but one could say that.
It's too much for Glee.
In this essay, I will.
It's too much for me. I can't handle it. I only can handle some surface level metaphors here.
Yeah.
Okay?
Anything deeper, just Glee is like, no, just stop. Don't do it.
Yeah, but Sebastian is all like, "Oh, I want to get to know you. Like, this was nice. Like, I'd prefer if we could meet again." And so then Blaine is talking to Kurt, and he's like, "Do you think we're too sheltered as artists? Do you think we need to live more?" And Kurt
Wait a second. In that first conversation, doesn't Sebastian ask him about a boyfriend?
No.
Okay, so he just doesn't bring it up.
He says, like, I'd love to get to know you better and, like, pick your brain. And Blaine kind of, like, looks uncomfy, but, like, doesn't fully get the very, very clear, blatant hints that Sebastian is dropping.
I think he does. I think that's part of his adventurousness, is that he's, like, interested in not necessarily pursuing, but...
I'm wondering... Because, like, my initial reaction was, Blaine, now you say no. Now you say, I'm not going to see you again because I have a boyfriend.
Right.
Like, that's when you say, I have a boyfriend. You say those things.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think Blaine was intrigued by the attention.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So then he's talking to Kurt about, like, do you think we're too sheltered? Like, do you think we need to be more adventurous? And Kurt's like, well, here's my bucket list. Like, be CEO of Logo. He's like,
do you have the exact quote? Of course I do. And I think I can quote it. It's to have relations in a dewy meadow of lilacs with Taylor Lautner before he gets fat.
That's on his bucket list.
That's on his bucket list.
Yeah.
I know the exact line because I said it like 3 times out loud. I was like, that's what he fucking just said. There were some good one-liners in this episode.
Yeah. And
bucket lists were supposed to be like realistic.
Right? That's
Things
what I thought
that
too.
you want to get done before you die.
And he's like I know that this sounds like a stupid thing to want. And then Blaine's like, sweetie, it's not.
And I'm like, it still is.
It's not stupid.
It's very stupid.
he says it's hot.
Yeah.
That's
hot. I was like, what?
Yeah, well, I mean, you don't usually get that much sexual energy from Kurt, so maybe that's it.
Question.
Though,
does he say field of lilacs?
Yeah.
A dewy meadow of lilacs.
Which lilacs are trees.
They're bushes.
Yeah, that's...
Is the person who wrote this episode, like, not know what a lilac is?
But it's funny because, like at the very beginning of the show, of this episode, it's Kurt's the one that's like, I think we should, like, move this below the belt. And and Blaine is like, no, we should wait. We're high schoolers. We should wait.
Yeah, Kurt was saying that in his leopard print sweater suit.
Yeah.
Yeah, and because he's like, don't we ever just want to rip each other's clothes off? And Blaine is like, well, that'd be a tall order.
Because of all the layers.
Okay, I really like that line.
Yeah, we both laughed. We're like, it's actually true, and it's funny.
So after the bucket list scene, there's a scene at the Lima Bean with Sebastian and Blaine, and Sebastian's like, or he's like, Blaine's like, did you actually order a shot of, was it how do you say it?
I don't even know what it was.
It was like Cavas. I should have looked this up.
I don't know what it is.
I've watched this episode twice. I should know.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry for your loss.
I get excited after we record, and I tend to watch the new episode on Monday and then on the weekend. And so, and Sebastian's like, oh, it was mother's milk to me when I lived in Paris. And Blaine's like, oh, Paris? Like,
he lived in Paris.
Oh, of course. Basically.
Yeah. And he's like, your whole bashful schoolboy thing, super hot. And Blaine's like, oh, I have a boyfriend. And Sebastian's like, I don't mind. It doesn't bother me if it doesn't bother you. And he's like,
that's when you say, okay, bye.
Yeah, no, I was just Blaine. Okay, if anyone said that I had a bashful schoolgirl thing going on and was super hot, I'd be gone.
Yep. I would leave my drink there.
Yeah, I would just leave. Yeah, like this is, I don't understand what the like, what is this double standard? All of the things that he's saying to Blaine is super creepy. Is it just not creepy because he's a guy, or
are we as the audience supposed to be like, oh my god, like he is really into him? Like, are we supposed to be like, not necessarily rooting for this, but are we supposed to be like, oh, this is okay? Like, this guy is just super sexual and is like really into him. Like, no. I feel like it's super predatory, and I'm like,
yeah, very, very predatory.
I hated him from the minute he existed.
I feel like we're supposed to like this activity because of the way like everything is framed in the camera. Like, it's not menacing, it's more like oddly intimate.
I think we're supposed to hate Sebastian.
I think that it's a device. Really? I think it's a device to get you to kind of feel like there is a bit of confliction in Blaine.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because like, I think I wrote something down that's like, I hate Sebastian, but also I hate that Blaine hesitated before saying no.
Well, it's interesting because like, I feel like they're doing it for drama, but
yeah,
the issue
they
here
have to
is
be.
that like, if they want more drama, wouldn't it be better to create a character that Blaine could actually have a chance with instead of this super evil villain creature?
I know people that shipped Sebastian over Kurt.
Yes, I do too. Well, also, I think the other thing is that, like, we just talked about that scene where, like, Kurt was like, hey, like, we should, like, move things along. And Blaine was like, no. This doesn't make sense where all of a sudden he's, like, interested in Sebastian. Like, I think it would make more sense if Blaine was like, it's like, hey, do you think we should? And Kurt's like, no, like, you know, let's not.
I agree.
Yeah. And then, like, it just,
because at this point,
it's a 180.
At this point, it's like, if this is your realistic relationship with you and your partner, and the one partner's like, I want sex, and the other partner's like, no, but then all of a sudden they're like, I want to be adventurous and try things. It's not going to be, why are you going to go be adventurous with a stranger when you know that the person that you're dating wants this already, you know?
Yeah, the cause and effect in this episode makes no sense, especially in Blaine and Kurt's storyline.
So Sebastian invites them to go to a gay bar with some fake IDs. And Blaine's like, no, but Kurt's like, Kurt is, because Kurt runs into them. And he's like, oh, like, what's going on? Like, who are you talking about? And Blaine's like, oh, I'm talking about you, like, how great you are. And Kurt instantly sensed Sebastian's evil and is like...
Not even just that he's evil, but, like, he's moving in on his man. Like, it's super obvious.
It's super obvious, and also, like, honestly...
Sebastian's not shy about it either. He holds out his hand and is, like, shaking his hand.
And then, like, Kurt's reaction, honestly, very much probably would be me. Like... Yep, this is, you guys can't see what I'm doing, but I just, like, cuddled up to Hannah. Like, this is mine, back off.
I'm supposed to explain it. Oh. She cuddled up to me.
Good.
Yeah.
It was very, it
was like an aggressive cuddle. Like, and that's what he does. He, like, kind of sits right next to him.
Yeah, it's very
possessive. That's the word I was looking for.
Yeah, I don't fault Kurt for being a little possessive in this particular situation, though.
Sure.
You guys are so interesting. My reaction would be totally different. I would probably...
I'm a jealous person.
I'm a jealous person too, but I would never show it in public. I would watch to see how my partner reacted.
Yeah,
like, interacts with this person, and then I would pounce on them. Like,
I was gonna say, you want to confront them.
I've straight up commented on, like, flirty posts from other people, like flirty comments, like
what's
that's my person.
No. I wait and watch. If there's something that shouldn't be happening, it would just.
So you would let things unfold.
Yeah.
So it's interesting you say that, because, like, immediately when he's like, let's go to the gay club, right? Kurt is the one that's then perpetuating it, right? Blaine's like, no, I'm done. We're done. And then Kurt, it seems like, is trying to see, okay, well, if this is what he wants, this is what he'll get type situation. It seems almost out of spite.
Yeah.
And that was weird. His reaction
I thought that was odd that he was, like, the one perpetuating it, because it's like, clearly Blaine made the choice to shut this down. And he walked in on Blaine saying, no, he means a lot to me. I'm not going to do that.
And I think the one thing that Sebastian, not even just sex appeal, but, like, that he's adventurous, that he's, like, been to France or whatever, like, these things. And I think that's really what spurs Blaine to be like, shouldn't we be more adventurous? And I think that's why Kurt is like, no, let's do this. Like, let's be adventurous. Like, kind of to prove Blaine wrong. But then it forces them all together. So, like,
I see that. I see what you're saying, because, like, I think it makes sense with the through line of, like, that they wanted to convey we should be more adventurous, not just sexually, but completely.
Overall, yeah.
However, I think that they did a bad job of conveying this, because that's not how it read that's not how it read until the very end of the episode.
Yeah, it really wasn't until just now that I was like, oh wait, he did talk about like France and like other things that he's
But also
done.
Kurt didn't even know that this guy
he
went to
wasn't
France
there for
and
that
all
part of the conversation.
I think Kurt was getting that because Sebastian made fun of their nighttime routine of skin sloughing. And so he was getting this very like, oh, you think I'm boring? No, I'm not
that
boring.
does make sense.
Yeah. I forgot about
and also
the sloughing over the phone. I'm like,
yeah, that's kind of gross. But I oftentimes, like we were talking about before, forget that these people are teenagers. And if you think about this as like a jealous teenager, like trying to one up the guy who's going after his boyfriend.
Yeah, it
makes a lot more sense, you know?
Yeah.
Like if this were a normal, healthy adult relationship, then later they would be alone and talk about them doing adventurous things. And then Kurt would be like, hey, if you want to go to that gay bar, let's go. You know, like it just, but not as a specific in the moment thing, trying to one up someone.
Yeah, I really think that like it's very tenuous. This
That's
moment.
Hannah's $1 million word. It's her favorite word. And
I know, I've said it a lot.
Tenuous.
Yeah.
I love it.
So, okay, so side note, this happens like when I'm like working, I'm a copy editor. And so like I'll like read words and then they just get stuck in my brain. So I'll say like a lot of just like the same words over and over again until they're out of my brain. So I'm sorry. This week's word is tenuous. Tenuous.
Last year? No, not last year.
Last year.
Last episode. Or maybe it was the episode I was editing. I don't know. Yes,
Yeah.
8 We said the drink word was
bonkers.
Bonkers. This episode it's tenuous. Yes.
You can go back to almost
tuned
any
to
episode
find out
of
what next week's word is.
Yes.
You can go back to almost any episode of Gleeboot and play the tenuous game.
Probably.
Yeah. I do it all the time.
Wow. Does it take a shot every time Hannah says tenuous?
I take a mental shot. I just go like
a mental shot.
Yeah, I'm just like tenuous is Hannah's favorite word. Haha.
But no alcohol involved.
No alcohol. Because it's while I'm editing, which is usually like during the day.
Yeah.
Not gonna,
Day drink? Wow.
Yep.
I would.
So they go to the gay bar, they get their fake IDs, they get
the other way around. They get their fake IDs,
and
then
they go to the gay bar.
But it kind of
Scandals is
feels
what
like
it's
that guy,
called.
the guy that like checks the IDs probably gave them those IDs.
He gave me a weird vibe.
He literally did not care. He looked at him and looked at those guys and he was like, you're totally not old enough to be in here, but whatever.
That could point to, at least in my experience in like West Hollywood, a problem of checking IDs and making sure minors aren't there, and how sometimes that does not always happen.
That there's at least one bar in every city that you know you can get in, even if you don't have an ID.
Yeah.
Yeah.
West Hollywood just has a whole lot more.
When I was in college, it was you could get into the bar. You just had to wear like a bright colored wristband or something.
Right.
That showed that you were underage to drink.
They marked you with a scarlet letter.
Yeah.
When I was in college, there was a bar that was well known to serve minors.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Well,
I didn't go. I want everyone to know that I did not go to that bar.
Good for you, Alyssa. Good for you.
Not even after I was of age.
You're just like,
it was kind of a dive. Yeah, there were better places to go.
Yeah. So they get into the bar and it's called Scandals and it's drag queen night, and they sort of make fun of the drag queens a bit. They're like,
there's a very old person joke.
It's a really good one.
He's like, look at all the glamorous drag queens.
Yeah, I think Kurt goes to like one who's wearing a ginger wig, is like, is that supposed to be Lucy or Reba? And then Blaine goes, it's Ginger from Gilligan's Island. And I was like, what are they, 50? Like,
It made me laugh so much because I was like, nobody would get this joke.
Yeah,
No modern person is gonna understand this.
That one's for the parents.
It was though, because it's literally that like I got the joke just because my parents forced me to watch like their shows from when they were kids.
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember Gilligan's Island on TV Land.
Mm-hmm.
I remember it too.
Same thing with like Lucy and then
the Andy Griffith Show.
Yeah.
We had Gilligan's Island and the Andy Griffith Show on DVD, and we watched it in a van that had like the DVD player built into the back of the seats. When my brother and I were like, I was in 3rd grade and he was in 1st grade, and we were driving across the country to move to Colorado. So we watched all of it because there's a lot of hours in the car.
You lived in Colorado?
Yeah, for 2 years.
Oh, I didn't know that.
And then we watched it on the way back when we were driving on the way back after moving.
I've already seen this episode.
Oh, I hate it. It's the worst. It was the Andy Griffith Show, Gilligan's Island, and
Leave It to Beaver.
Yes.
It might have been Leave It to Beaver.
We also had the Jetsons and I don't even remember what it's called. My dad had like all of his kid cartoons. Yeah.
That was our TV Land corner.
Nostalgia.
That's all she wrote. Oh, it's Johnny Quest. That's what it was.
Oh, Johnny Quest.
Like, I only realized as an older child that Johnny Test was a direct rip on Johnny Quest.
Oh.
I had no idea.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Fun facts.
Anyways, that's us being old. Moving on.
So they're at the gay bar, and it's pretty packed for a Wednesday night.
This bar is literally like a dive bar. It reminded me of the honky tonk bar they went to in that one episode where Shu and Beast got drunk together.
The honky tonk bar was nicer.
Yeah. I think I'd rather go to that honky tonk bar.
This is the type of bar where they keep the lights really, really low so you can't see anything.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And Sebastian is there, and he got a beer for Blaine and a Shirley Temple for Kurt because he's the designated driver.
And he is dressed like Steve from Blue's Clues.
Legitimately 100% his exact outfit.
That's striped, like, what is a rugby shirt or whatever?
Yeah, with a popped collar, though.
Yeah. I was like, he's Steve on the off night.
And so Blaine and Sebastian are dancing, and Kurt is watching them, and then Karofsky shows up.
Question: did we ever hear previous to this what happened to Karofsky, or did he just disappear?
I think he just disappeared.
Okay,
that's what I thought
he was kicked out. Was he not kicked out?
No, because he came back, and then he was prom king.
And then he just disappeared.
Interesting. Okay.
And I don't think that was ever brought up until just now.
And so he transferred to a new school because he didn't want any rumors about him. And Kurt's like, I wouldn't have started any. That's not who I am. I wouldn't have told anyone. And he's like, I come here a lot. I'm called a bear cub. I fit in and they accept me here. And I'm like, I don't feel comfortable with this underage boy regularly being at a bar.
Nope.
And,
with like literally all the people that they've seen, like all the drag queens are like probably in their 40s and 50s.
Yeah, this is not
they
a
call
good
him
stereotype.
a bear cub, quote unquote.
It's
uncomfy.
It sucks because like it kind of feels like there's really no other place for him to go to be himself. And like while like it doesn't look like this place is inherently dangerous or anything, but it's just like it's not a place for a 17 or 18-year-old kid.
Well, it comes down to like, I think they wanted to talk about how gay bars have this history of being the only place where people can be themselves and feel like themselves, but it's a show about teenagers. And so it just
But I'm sure there are plenty of situations where teenagers go to these places, they get fake IDs and just go and hang out. I'm sure that I'm positive that happens. It's just, I don't know if I don't know. I'm not going to judge it.
It feels it doesn't quite hit home for me because we know a gay teenager in this town who is himself. And I don't I feel like Karofsky's problem is that he can't accept himself, not that the people around him won't accept him.
We'll get more of that later.
Well, right now, this is the feeling that I have.
But I will say, I thought that the conversation actually was, probably one of the better written moments of the episode between him and Kurt. I was like, that was a surprisingly, really interesting kind of good interaction that just happened.
Some odd closure, kind of. Because, the last time they'd seen each other was prom, right?
I'm pretty sure, yeah.
So, honestly, if they were old enough to be in this bar, it would have been perfect.
I agree.
Yeah. It was just oh, you're here.
It's just, I think every single underlying part of this show that made me uncomfy in this episode was literally
children.
They're children.
Yes, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's a good way. If they hadn't been underage, it would have been a really great moment.
If this was about a college Glee club, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah, if this was about the Barden Bellas.
Yes. Pitch Perfect comes up again.
All the drama when
Drake
Kurt
every
wants
time
to
we
be
talk
a
about
Bella.
Pitch Perfect.
So Kurt is excuse me, because he sees Sebastian dancing with Blaine, and he's like, I'm gonna come in, and he does his little shimmy dance move, and he gets in between Sebastian and Blaine, and then Sebastian tries to dance on the other side of Blaine, and Kurt turns around and shimmies in between them again.
It's aggressive, and he at one point looks back at Sebastian, does an up down look, and then keeps shimmying.
Maybe
and I'm
it's just the jealous girl in me, but I was straight up you go, Kurt. You get your man.
No, I was with it, because that's whenever you go out, you have your group, and I don't know, I just feel like you sometimes have to dance out awkward people who are gonna try and hit on your friends you don't want to be hit on.
Yeah.
Or people who are moving in on people. So I related to Kurt in that moment, dancing away the problems.
Yeah, dancing away the problems, dancing away the creeper. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, no. That's a good way to put it. It's also if you're in a group of friends, you're all dancing, and then some creeper comes up, it's everyone shift this way.
Yep.
Yeah. So afterwards, Blaine is super drunk, and he's like, I want to live here. I love this place. I want to live here and make art. And he said he only had one beer. And Kurt's
I don't believe that.
And he's like, let's put you in the back seat so you don't get drunk. And he's like, kiss me. And
so you
Kurt's
don't get drunk?
So you don't throw up.
Which is not true. The backseat is actually worse.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I did not know that.
I know this only because I get motion sickness, and the backseat is always worse. So I can't even imagine.
That makes sense
if I
as to
was
why
drunk.
I was always so miserable in Ubers going back to my apartment that I would be really drunk and be sitting in the back seat and be like, I can't look out the window.
Yeah, the backseat. I don't know why. It just always is. It's always
so
worse.
if you throw up in an Uber, it's a $250 fine.
Unless they don't fine you, as it happened to me.
In Boston too. I can't. And on a busy party night.
This is my biggest hot mess moment of my life.
And then you came to school the next day or the day after. And
That was another semester where I threw up in the stall next to my professor.
Oh, yeah.
Hot mess grad school, Cullen. I hope my mom doesn't listen to this episode. We'll see. We'll find out.
And that's what you missed on Glee.
So Blaine is all like, kiss me, and then he pulls Kurt in, and he's like, let's have sex right now. And Kurt's like, cold hand. He's like, I don't want to have sex right now. And he's like, no, let's just be wild and have sex right now. And Kurt yells at him. He's like, I don't want to have sex with you. He's like, why are you yelling at me? And he's like, because we're supposed to be, I don't have sex with you on the same night you spent dancing with another guy. And he's like, this isn't about Sebastian, this is about us. And he's like, well, like, if this is about us, you would know that I have never felt any less desire to be intimate than I do right now. Which I thought was a great line.
I thought that was a great line too. I like genuinely thought that was a very interesting moment because there was like a direct dichotomy of like happy drunk Blaine, and then immediately it was like, I think he's more sober than he was letting on.
Interesting.
Yeah, I immediately got that vibe.
Interesting. I did not catch on to that at all.
Yeah, because I know like Kurt says like either like you're too drunk to have sex right now or you're just not going to remember it in the morning kind of thing. And like, but yeah, like Blaine does kind of like seems to
he kind of snaps out of it right when Kurt yells at him. And I thought that was interesting because like I think Kurt genuinely like was reading the situation correctly in this instance, because my brain was like, okay, like if my partner is this drunk and they're like kind of all over me, I'm gonna be like, no, like you're drunk, we're just gonna go home. Like I don't think that my reaction would be I'm gonna snap at them, you know. But that's what he did, and like genuinely I get why, because Blaine was there at the same time with the guy that's been hitting on him for the whole episode. So like it's supernatural to feel that jealousy, but at the same time it's like, but then you got in there and you split them up and presumably had a fun time the rest of the night with him. Right?
Yeah.
So clearly he was holding on to the pent up like hurt that Blaine possibly could have done something with this character that he did shut down, but then Kurt brought to this situation, technically.
I felt for Kurt because the whole situation, Kurt was saying like in the car, Kurt was saying no and Blaine was kind of pushing.
I agree with that too.
So I felt that like Kurt's kind of explosion, like this is supposed to be about us and you're making it about you.
Yeah.
He did though. 100% did that because, you know, like you can write it off as like, oh, he's super drunk, which like was what was happening essentially, is how the scene was set up. But also from the beginning of the show, Kurt was the one who was wanting to do this and Blaine was the one saying no.
Yeah,
you know,
so the arc is
kind of weird in that all of a sudden when Blaine wants to do it, it makes so much more sense for Kurt to be like, I want us to do this when you're yourself and remembering this, rather than, well, you were gonna go fuck this other guy, which wasn't going to happen. I truly believe wasn't going to happen.
But he was still like,
he was
not shutting it down.
Yeah, immediately, which I did write that down. I was like, why didn't he immediately shut it down? He hesitated.
Yeah.
So it was an interesting scene, and I actually really liked that scene.
Yeah, it was definitely an interesting moment. And Blaine decides to walk home instead of have Kurt drive him home. And I'm like, where in Ohio are you? Don't think about it, Cullen. Don't think about Cullen.
And now
where do you live?
So drunk, but he's walking home by himself, which is also kind of why I was like, he definitely wasn't as drunk as he like was pretending to be, or maybe he was just feeling the high of having a good time.
This club. Yeah, I don't think that at this point the Glee writers don't understand distances in Ohio. So.
Yeah, they don't even know what Ohio looks like. They're like, it's a small one by New York, right? Nope. Incorrect.
Which will get even funnier as the show goes on. Yeah. So then, we leave them on this fight, and then it's West Side Story, the show. And after West Side Story, Blaine is practicing a move. And Kurt's like, I thought you were perfect. I thought you did an amazing job. And he's like, your Officer Krupski really brought the house down. And Kurt's like, sorry, I can't help but attract attention. I thought that was funny. And he's like, and Blaine's like, I just want you to know that you were right, that I was too drunk, and that I just also want you to know that Sebastian means nothing to me. And he's like, let's go to this after party at Breadsticks together. And Kurt's like, no, let's go back to your house.
Bow, chicka, bow, bow.
I will say, again, maybe it's just my soft spot for Blaine. I was a little emotional. I was like, this is sweet.
It was a really sweet
their
moment.
Makeup was really sweet. And I was just like, I was literally like, again, you can't see what I'm doing, audience. But
Anna?
She almost grabbed my boob, but she
what
was
I
like
intended.
clutching onto me to like hold on for dear life.
Yes.
That was the vibe she was going for.
It was more so that it was like, it very much felt like the setup for me of the scene felt like that big tension before the I love you, like the first I love you, essentially.
Yeah.
Like the almost like a renewal of that.
I wish that this really important moment in their relationship had been front loaded with stuff that made more sense.
I agree.
That's all that I want. It's just more
Same.
logic.
I wish it hadn't been brought on by jealousy of another guy.
Yes.
Yeah.
I wish it had been more like I just love you. Like after the show, just like her being like, you were so amazing, and you know, just something really sweet like that, and just leading to that moment just organically, I think would have been.
Yeah.
Well, we're going to talk about it, but Tina has a story that is pretty much that exact thing.
Yeah.
So if it had been more like Tina's story, that would have been
Honestly,
great. But
Tina
that's
was
not
the only
dramatic
character
enough.
that made sense in this entire freaking episode.
Yeah. and she-
Yeah.
She had one line.
Yeah.
She had a lot of lines.
I guess technically because the
Double?
musical.
That does make sense.
Yeah.
Whoa! Spoiler for Tina time.
Well, you don't know the exact number yet, so.
Oh, so we are all waiting on the count.
Oh.
Nailed it. Some election humor, post-election humor. Because now we can all laugh.
We can. We can hesitantly laugh.
Yeah. So before we get into the final
Cautiously
scene,
Yeah.
before we get into the final scene of Blaine and Kurt, let's talk about Finchel. Blurt. Let's talk about Finchel.
We changed it from Clane to Blurt because it's way better.
I hate it.
It's so much better. I love it.
I do too, like low key.
Yeah, high key.
just a couple of cute guys. Blurt.
Oh no.
It's so good. Okay, let's
So
get to Finchel.
So after Artie tells Rachel and Blaine that they need to have sex as their director.
Not with each other, but like
In
separately
general,
with their
they
partners.
need to go have sex.
Which, let's just say, insanely inappropriate.
Yeah.
Very inappropriate.
Yeah.
The more I think about the scene, the more I'm like thinking about Hollywood and all the inappropriate things that happen, and I just need to move on. So Finn is helping Rachel put up posters, and she's like, "Do you know who you're voting for yet?" And he's like, well,
Yeah,
Kurt's-
all this election talk had me triggered, and it's after the election.
Finn is like, well, Kurt's my brother, and it's hard to vote against your brother. And then Rachel kisses him, is like, can you do this with your brother?
Gross.
Stop.
I can't believe she
That's
said
so
that.
gross.
I was so mad. I was like, no, let's not have this.
Well, in Star Wars.
Oh.
Good deep cut.
Sorry.
Deep cut.
And Finn's like, not unless you live in Kentucky.
Honestly,
Okay.
that's a joke that actually
I
kind of
feel like-
translated though to the modern day.
I feel
They're
like,
not actually blood brothers, so.
No, they're not.
yeah. And never mind. I was gonna
I
say,
mean-
I don't know if Kentucky's like the best state to mark on that, you know, but maybe something
Alabama.
happened. Yeah, I was thinking more deeper south or like West Virginia. But anyway,
West Virginia, which is north of Kentucky.
exactly. It's like southeast of Ohio.
South.
I just need you all to know, because Hannah didn't describe what she did. When she said southeast, she drew in the air.
Because I had to
Her hand
I was
going down
not
for
not
southeast,
doing
and then over for
Father,
east.
Son, Holy Spirit. I wasn't doing that. Not to confuse the Catholics on the other side of the camera.
The Catholics
wait, I
do
didn't think
all of the cardinal directions, not just 2.
Okay, good to know.
So where were we? Okay, so he's putting up the poster and he's like, well, Bert and Carol, my parents are
Bert
out.
and Carol.
We will get to that later. We are going to pause on that.
Can we just, for a moment, think about how Kurt actually wanted their parents to get married so he could do brotherly things with Finn?
Yeah.
No, I'm upset.
Yeah,
You're
no,
not
let's
wrong.
touch on that again. We haven't talked about that in a while. Do you know what else we haven't talked
forgot
about?
That's the whole first half of the first season. Is
Do you remember how Finn even got to the Glee Club? Oh yeah, Shu pretended
Grabbed him in the shower.
that, and he found pot in his locker.
Oh my
There
god!
are so many things that we can just go back. I would love to do
I just
like
wanted
this
to
one.
point this out because Rachel's like, can you do this with your brother? And I
It's like,
immediately went,
technically.
well, yes, but he doesn't want to. So that was an entire plot point.
Yeah.
Rachel wasn't there for that.
You should have said, "Would you do this with your brother?"
There you go. There you go.
Solve everything.
It's all about
Like,
semantics.
She's like pushing herself up against my basket of laundry here, like sensually.
Honestly, that was not that sensual.
It was a bit sensual.
Okay. Oh.
Sensual
I
laundry
can't-
baskets, people.
Yeah. So he's like, what's gotten into you? And she's like, just the confidence. I'm tied for student body president, in the election polls.
Wait, who is she tied with?
She didn't say.
Okay, interesting, because I didn't catch that part.
She's going to play Maria in West Side Story. And he's like, yeah, I'm feeling myself too, because a recruiter's coming on Friday from Ohio State. And what?
I laughed so hard.
Laughing
said-
so hard.
Yeah, a recruiter from Ohio State's coming. They need a new quarterback. And I cackled. I was like, sweetie, you are not good enough for Ohio State, let alone to be their quarterback. Sweetheart, get a new dream. I'm so sorry. So yeah, I cackled when he said that. I was like, I get this is a TV show. It's fictional, but.
To be
This is
fair,
just a quick
I don't
Google.
actually know how good Finn is at football.
Not good.
I would guess that he's not good considering his dancing skills. But
Yeah.
we never ever refer to his football career.
That's a good question. Are we supposed to be like, oh, he might get this?
Yeah,
I don't think so.
I don't
because
know.
Honestly,
You're spending literally all your free time in Glee Club. When are you
literally
playing
the
football?
quickest Google will let you know that Ohio State is a really good football team and has even in that era. So it's like they were actually really, really good in that era. Makes no sense. They're like, what's a school in Ohio? And some writer assistant was like, Ohio State. They're like, perfect. Put it in the script.
Well, I think it's also as someone who worked in admissions with a lot of teenage boys when talking about their college experience, a lot of them just wanted to go. I was in Michigan, so I'm going to play football or basketball at University of Michigan or Michigan State, and I just wanted to be like, you're probably not, but I don't want to crush your dreams.
I didn't think about that. Yeah.
So I feel like we're supposed to believe that Finn believes he can get it.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's why I was like, oh, he's going to be so heartbroken. He didn't even have a chance. I'm actually really surprised that, obviously we'll talk about this I guess we can talk about this later, but that anyone from that team had a chance, because are they even a winning team? We don't know. There's been no football this season so far.
They won their championship game last season.
Yeah.
I think
Hmm.
the football team being good is kind of something more that we touch on in Beast's
Well, on the
storyline.
Wikipedia page
Oh.
for Finn, it says that he takes his role as the quarterback extremely seriously.
Okay.
Wow.
The 13-year-old girl who wrote that in 2012.
Shout out to you.
We love you.
I hope you're listening. So Finn is like, yeah, Bert and my mom are out doing election stuff, so I'm gonna have the house to myself. Would you want to come over? And Rachel's like, to your house? And he's like, yeah. And she's like, I'll be there at 6. And then he leaves, and Finn is all like excited.
Yeah, well, we know the episode's title, so we can only assume that means sex, which already spells out, I don't remember when, but it made me hurt inside. Like I was bleeding internally.
Oh no, when he said sex on a stick.
That was Sebastian.
Sebastian said sex on a stick.
No, Artie spelled out sex to someone.
Well,
right?
when he said sex on a stick, Hannah literally was like, can you please stop saying the word sex?
Yes. At that point, that was only, oh God, that was maybe halfway through the episode. They had said sex like 7 times. I was like, can we stop? You are children.
Well, if we're going to talk about how many times they said sex, let's talk about the fact that in this scene, they didn't say it at all. I thought relationships were about communication, and I just want to know who is reading whose brain here.
Right?
Because my house at 6, I need things a little more clear.
I guess it's implied.
Also, like,
there's nothing implied.
In a lot of popular culture media presentations.
I guess it wasn't super flirty. She was like, "Oh,
or whatever.
I'll be there at 6." Yeah, I guess
it's very much like, we're not going to talk about it, and it needs to happen naturally. And then, like, in the middle of it, it's like eyebrow protection. Me too. And it's like, you had to have, like, at least insinuated very clearly that you wanted this.
I feel
right?
like the signal is, my parents aren't going to be home. I have the house to myself. Do you want to come over? I feel like that's like the signal. But yeah, they didn't make it very flirty. It was very like awkward.
It was really weird because my parents aren't going to be here. Like, media-wise,
be here. Okay.
Excuse me that someone's going to have a unsanctioned party.
Oh yeah, because that's what happened with Rachel.
You're right.
And that's when Blaine got drunk.
So, I mean, that's not code for sex to me. Like, in media, in high school media, when you're watching high schoolers, and that's always a party.
Yeah.
But his face, I really liked Corey Monteith's acting in this scene.
I don't remember.
I thought his face conveyed it.
I thought he did too. I thought he very much had a surprised kind of, oh, we're doing this? Like, I was cool not doing this, but you want this? Okay, yeah, no, I definitely I'm down. Like, I'm down. Yeah. That was what I got from his face.
Yeah, he played teenage boy very well.
He did.
Which is good, because he was 35. I don't know how
old he was. For one of the oldest people on the cast, he definitely embodies that age pretty well.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So they come over, they have dinner, they're listening to like Rachel Berry's playlist. It says on like her iPod, dinner playlist.
A what? An iPod? What is that?
It's from Star Wars.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
It's a really futuristic media player.
Yeah. And so they're like eating dinner, and they cheers to no fighting or breakups, threats. So they've been healthy for a while, so good for them.
Yeah, a little while.
And then he's like, I have dessert. I have pound cake. It's Sara Lee.
Oh, that's right. And she's like, oh, this is the best meat substitute I've ever had. And he's like, oh, yeah, that's right, because you're totally a vegan. And I know this because we know things about each other. And then I was like, no, Rachel's not a vegan. And I know this because she would be talking about it. And I'm not trying to perpetuate the stereotype of vegans, but as Rachel, who would be a vegan, she would be talking about it constantly. So she's not a vegan. Maybe she's trying veganism. That's my theory.
Not enough.
I straight up I did not put it together until like 15 to 20 seconds afterwards. And I looked at Hannah and I was like,
yeah, she literally did like, she's like, oh my God.
He fed her meat.
But okay, let's be real here. If she was vegan and she ate meat,
Her stomach would be.
She'd be wrecked.
Throwing up.
Literally.
Yeah, absolutely.
Actually, here's what would happen, and I know this because I was vegan for about 8 months, and this is exactly what happened to me. I started eating meat and cheese again, basically out of cold turkey, and literally about 10 minutes after I ate, immediate stomach problems. So they would be going to have sexy times, laying down, immediately her stomach would go, and she'd be like,
yeah, I was actually kind of expecting that.
That would be amazing. That's in the Gleeboot. It's in the Gleeboot.
Yes.
That is in the Gleeboot.
So when we redo this episode.
That's what's happening.
Oh, I love that. Yeah.
And then actually that would be a much sweeter moment because Finn would be like, "Oh, your tummy hurts.
I brought you a pair of my underwear because you ruined
your tummy hurts. So we're gonna hang out and watch movies, and then we'll have sex when you feel good."
Yeah, he's gonna bring her a pair of his underwear. She ruined her.
That's what's gonna happen.
I love this version of Glee that we have.
Professional screenwriters, people.
Yeah, there we go.
Instead of the first time, it will be called Vegan Shits.
That's the name of the episode.
Yep, I like it.
They're like, wait, this is the one where they do West Side Story? We're like, yes.
Vegan
No.
shits? Yeah.
Remember, we're doing The Little Mermaid.
Yes.
Oh, yes.
And everyone's crawling. So So not only does she get that stomach, and she's wearing a tail.
Because she has to method act being a mermaid.
Guys, it makes so much more sense for Artie to be the director of the Little
Because they oh my god.
My face hurts from laughing. Anyway, okay, let's move on.
We're creative geniuses. You heard it here first.
So Rachel's like, let's cuddle by the fire. So he lights a fire and they're cuddling and they start kissing, and she like leans back and he starts kissing, and he's like, "Are you sure you want to do this?" And she's like, "Yes." He's like, I brought protection? And she's like, "I did too."
Oh wait, before this, he meets up with Puck in the locker room and is like basically asking Puck for recommendations for condoms.
And Puck immediately assumes he's cheating.
Yeah, and then I was like, he's like, "That's not cool," and that's coming from me. I was like, "Can Puck stop being the voice of reason in the show? Thank you very much."
And then he's like, "No, they're with Rachel." And he's like, "Oh, good for you. I always hoped it would be you. I always thought it would be me, but I hoped it would be you."
And then he's like, "I don't know anything about the brands of condoms, never used them." And I'm like,
Ew.
That checks out, I guess. That's on brand.
Worked 99% of the time, except that one time.
He assaulted Quinn and got her pregnant.
Yeah.
Wait a second. If that means he slept with 100 women. Or at least had sex 100 times.
Yeah, because there's no way that he can do that math with a number that's not 100.
I mean, if one baby is 1%.
Yeah, no, you're right. I think you're right.
What? No, that doesn't make sense.
I bet you he counts how many times he's had sex. He's had sex 100 times.
He probably has a tally in his room. He's one of those tally on
his mom's like, "Why are there so many lines on your wall?" He's like, oh
dear.
Sorry. I should have said that.
Oh no.
This episode is crazy. It's bonkers.
Bonkers.
Not everyone. Bonkers.
Now you have to somehow work tenuous into the conversation.
Okay, I'll try next. Okay, let's move on. I'll think of something.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I said it, so
it's a tenuous addition to have to add the word tenuous.
Oh my goodness.
One.
Hannah's doing a little head bop thing.
Yeah, that's what she was doing.
I don't know, your description of that is a bit tenuous.
Drink. All right.
Oh no.
Let's move on.
So then he's like, "I've been saving up for like a hotel or something, like someplace really nice, like a Marriott."
No.
That was really cute.
It was really sweet.
It was very thin, very
It was cute, but it was also like Marriott is the hotel while I go get like do cons and
yeah.
Yeah.
The Con
But it is
Hotel.
like Western Ohio. They have a lot of those big like
chains. Yeah. And Rachel's like, no, I have to get this taken care of before opening night. And he's like, taken care of? What? And she's like, I'm supposed to be playing a girl who has a sexual awakening, and how can I do that if I haven't had sex myself? And he's like, so you're doing this so you can act better? And she's like, yes, and because I love you. But that doesn't have anything to do with you, like the acting. Just focus on that I love you. And he's like, I'm gonna go make dessert.
She is compartmentalizing again for like the 50th time in the show. Like she needs
therapy.
Yeah.
I mean, yes.
Honestly,
yes.
Everyone. Not even the characters.
Oh gosh. Let's not go there. Let's not. Yeah. I get why Finn is uncomfortable with this.
I agree. Like
it's rude.
It feels very like, it feels very much like he's doing the thing that women always blame men of doing to them. Of like, I'm just seeing you as an object to get the thing that I want.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
To feel the way that I want to feel. Although for her, it's not actually the sex, it's the motivation for the acting.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And she had this same goal before when she like wanted to experience life to write a song, and she was like, you know, flirting with Blaine or whatever, and then he turned it out, you know, he's like, yep, I'm gay, and like she used that as her like life, you know, skill to help her write or something. It's like it's crazy.
She uses people.
Yeah. She's sociopathic.
Yeah. And so Finn is upset, and then so Rachel has a meeting with her girls minus Mercedes.
I thought it was the celibacy club. Was it just like the girls?
Yeah.
It was the girls. Yeah.
Okay, I was like, oh god, it's the celibacy club in the episode about the first time.
I forgot about that.
Yeah.
And she's like, I need advice from my girls. Last time I asked you, it was Madonna week. And I'm like, Hannah's gonna scream.
She screamed! I mentioned the Madonna episode before we even started this, because it was like, oh, the first time I was like, oh god, hopefully it's not gonna be them singing a song and then like having sex at the same time. And then they mentioned that, and I was like, ugh.
She's like, flashbacks, PTSD.
Yeah.
So she's like, and you're wildly unhelpful during Madonna week. So, but Finn and I were about to have sex, and he found out I was doing it just because I wanted to have sex as Maria in West Side Story. And Tina is like, Rachel, that's really bad.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Basically, they were all like, all of them, I think, said, yeah, that's bad.
Yeah.
In some way or another.
Even
in their
Brittany
own
said that was horrible.
I think
even Brittany.
I think Tina and Brittany literally, Tina was like, oh my god, and Brittany was like, that's bad.
And she's like, I know, and I feel terrible, but I just want to know, like, should me and Finn have sex? Like, should we take things to the next level? And Quinn is like, my quick advice, no, look what happened to me. And Tina's like, you could have used protection. And Quinn is like, yeah, but I lost something that I can't get back. Like,
and she said it changes you.
Okay. I hate this entire section of the show until Tina.
Yeah.
I hate it. I hate it because it's such an ingrained toxic mentality in today's culture of sex changes you. Your virginity is going to never return. You're a different person.
That it's even a thing that like defines you.
It's not even a thing. It's just a social construct.
Yeah.
So it's the fact that line was the first thing that she said it
makes sense though for her.
It does. I get that.
And this is another one of those walls I told you guys that like I was like, I can't tell if this is the show reinforcing these ideas, which I guess in a certain way they probably do by just even expressing them through characters, or if this is them using the characters to express a variety of ideas about this topic.
I would say the latter, like the variety of ideas.
Especially because at first I was like, oh God, here they go. And then Tina comes in and she's like, she gives this really sweet anecdote she doesn't. Does she explicitly say it was Mike?
Yeah. Let's get to Tina. Let's go because Santana and Brittany say Santana is like, Finn is really bad in bed, and so you should wait. And Tina is like, that's so not cool.
Santana is really rude about it. She's like, it was like a floppy potato sack. And I was like, that's really rude. I'm like...
And Tina called her out on it because Tina was just the MVP of this scene.
I know.
The savior of this part of the storyline, really. Because like, otherwise it was just toxic central. It was very tenuous. Drink. I just kind of worked it in.
And Brittany says she lost her virginity at cheerleading camp. He just popped into her tent, alien invasion.
And somebody definitely assaulted her.
Yeah.
And everybody just ignored it, brushed it off, didn't say anything. That's an issue.
I was like, that was supposed to be a joke.
I know.
And I was so just funny. Like horrified. That's horrifying.
Yeah. And and she doesn't even say how old she was, so like we don't even know how old she would have been. And she's 17, 18, like
It was
I'm just gonna say that like you go to cheerleading camp anywhere from like elementary school through high school. Like you can be in cheerleading camp your whole life pretty much.
Yep. Yeah, I hated that line. But then Tina comes in clutch and she's like, actually, Mike and I talked about it for a really long time. Last summer, and we both wanted it to be special, and he was really sweet, and he was my first love, and I'm always going to look back on it fondly and with no regrets. And as Tina's talking, they start singing the second part, like, of A Boy Like That, the I Have a Love part. And we see Rachel practicing in the auditorium singing it, and we see her walking down the hallway and looking at Finn, and he's smiling at her, and Tina's talking about her really sweet time with Mike, and it's a really sweet moment on the show.
I thought that was the absolute highlight of the episode.
It was necessary to save the idea of virginity in that scene, like to give some other perspective.
I do kind of think that that's the idea they were trying to give, is like, we want to be sex positive and not like we don't want you to have to view it as like a thing that you have to do or a thing that you shouldn't do. Because it should be a thing that you can decide you want to do, and it can be a good experience.
Every other iteration of sex in this show has either been some form of assault, or people treating it like this big hurdle, or it being very just like lifeless, just like a thing I gotta do. So yeah, this oddly enough, I welcome this episode because of the way it's actually changing Glee's sort of landscape about sex.
Like, I did think that since that's where we ended and that's what changed Rachel's perspective, I think that that's the point the show wanted to convey. And that's why I was like, okay, like, that saved all of my initial angry feelings about this scene, and now I kind of feel like we were supposed to feel like that. Like, I don't know if I should give them that much credit, but like, that's how I want to feel, that we were supposed to be angry at first.
I think, and they just wanted to, I think that's realistically how a lot of teens would talk about it.
Right.
Especially Quinn, with what Quinn went through and the trauma of that.
She's very not dismissive, what's the word I'm thinking of? She's very kind of, I guess, bitter about her experience, understandably. So yeah, it totally, oddly enough, it's something for like the first time in a long time has been on character for her. And also like that idea of like, it's something that changes you, makes sense for like probably her background, her religious background.
Her perspective, it's 100% true to her, you know? So I do, like, thinking about it more, I was very quick to be angry about it and biased.
And then they turned it around.
But they did turn it around.
So then after the show, Finn, we have this shot of Finn in the shower, like upset.
That was a really hard turn.
It was hard. Like, we both gasped because it was very like just a brief, like, very different kind of
anger fest.
Like, and it was so quick. It was just like oh oh my god, is he gonna kill himself in the shower? Oh, okay, now we're watching this, I guess. Something else. Cool. I'm a little stressed still about that thing I just saw.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then we find out after the show, Rachel comes over to his house and she thanks him for the flowers and is like, oh, why didn't you want to go to the after party? And he's like, I spoke with the recruiter. I waited 20 minutes while he talked to Shane, Mercedes' boyfriend. And he came and he said, just because my football career ends in high school doesn't mean my life has to. He said he hit his ceiling.
So before this, Rachel asks where everyone is. He goes, Kurt and Blaine are out. And then he says, Bert and Carol are off doing something. I was like, Bert and Carol? You mean your mother? I rewound it. And that's exactly what he said. Bert and Carol. I was like, really? Someone on set did not catch that line. Bert and Carol.
You as an actor didn't say, it's kind of weird for me to sing Carol.
It's like, am I mad at her?
Like,
what's my motivation for calling her Carol?
She's not there, so
did I just find out I was adopted by both of them? Very confusing. But yes.
I totally
missed that. They just brushed it off and nobody said anything about it. I don't understand.
Yeah, no, I freaked out for at least 5 minutes. But yeah, so basically that recruiter, we only see part. So here's my big issue with this, is that we see part of it on screen. The rest of it is all off screen.
Yeah.
So Finn is lurking by sitting there and staring at the recruiter hugging this football student. And then, like, the recruiter comes up to him and tells him, you know, just because your football career ends in high school doesn't mean your life does. That's the only thing we see. And then the rest of it, Finn is giving us an exposition. And it's like, I literally kind of didn't care that this was happening because I'm like, well, only because we didn't really see much of this storyline. It was very sidelined. And I'm like, I'm having a hard time caring about this because I don't see where this arc went.
So the thing is,
I'm getting exposition.
It's like, according to Wikipedia, Finn is extremely
he takes it very seriously.
Serious about football. However, that's not really shown to us in the show
at all,
ever, because the focus of the show is the Glee Club. So, like, we don't really know this about him. Like, really, like, we're not experiencing that firsthand other than the first episode.
If they wanted us to really buy this, episode 1 of this season, like, in every episode, there would be a Finn moment about football. And leading up to, you know, recruiters or, you know, like, getting him ready for possibly, you know, a big game or something. It would have to be something, because otherwise I'm like...
And the other thing... I will say my first criticism of this scene was literally no professional recruiter or person coming to hire people is going to go up to somebody that they did not recruit and tell them that their, like, career in this art or this sport is over. Because, first of all, it's not like Ohio State is a top like football, you know what I mean? It's not like this is the dream, the one football school I want to go to.
It is.
In Ohio, yeah.
Yeah.
Ohio State
okay, for Ohio, that probably makes sense.
No, I mean, for the country, it definitely is. It's one of the 5.
Yeah.
It's a top 5.
Yeah, but it's like, there are so many, like, and I get that they addressed that, but like,
but yeah,
it's not like saying your career in football is over is something that somebody from a school would go and tell a kid.
He could go to OU. Like, there are definitely other schools.
That's not something, even when I bombed an audition, and I know I've bombed an audition, nobody was like, your career in theater is over. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah, that's
your
true.
life isn't over, but your career in theater is over. Nobody has said that. So it's like, I don't believe somebody would go up to a high school kid that
Finn is that bad.
Right? Like, he is that bad that the recruiter had to tell him specifically, please don't bother applying anywhere else. They don't want you.
Yeah, that's kind of what it feels like.
It's what it felt like. But then I will say that the way the scene transitioned, I actually was like, that part of the scene, like the flashback part, I hated. the part where he's actually like having this intense emotional conversation with Rachel, I was like, this is prime acting because this feels so real. To like, I actually had flashbacks to like the high school experience of like, I have to get into the school, I have to do this exact thing, like I want to be seen as like this specific image that I've set up for myself already. And I was like, this feels real. Also, this feels super genuine.
Finn up until this point hasn't known what he was gonna do at all. So like this kind of came out of nowhere. He was like, oh yeah, Ohio State's coming. I'm like, so? And he's like, yeah, we're looking for a new quarterback. I was like, oh honey, no.
Yeah, it felt like his reaction to this didn't match. It was almost like he was like just half-assed, like, oh, I guess I want to be the quarterback for Ohio State because they're looking for one.
Trying to show that his character is very much the, I don't have a plan. Oh my God, there's this one thing that now I'm extremely passionate about, and this is the only thing that I care about, and this is what I'm focusing on. And then when it doesn't happen, I don't have a plan again.
And that would make sense.
You know?
We didn't like
people like that.
Yeah, we didn't even see any of the passion for it. Just
that does. Yeah, I mean,
you're not getting
not
it.
wrong.
Yeah, like if they had set it up, it would have been more powerful. Like objectively, I feel for him because I totally understand where he's coming from. But like in the scope of the show, I kind of was like, there are bigger things happening in this episode, and this just kind of was like fell flat.
And it didn't even like, so when I saw him in the shower scene where he's being super emotional and like, I don't even know.
It's very intense.
It's a very intense scene, and I had no idea what it was about.
Yeah, it
Until
took a while.
After.
I didn't either.
Yeah, like
nope.
So
no idea.
The placement of that specific scene and the emotional intensity of it makes no impact.
It was tenuous
at all. Yes, it was tenuous.
If they had even given us a tiny clip of the football team or something right before that, something.
I don't know.
Give us some context because it didn't make us think he actually.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna lie, when she opens the door and he's acting all moody, I'm like, he's just moody right now and sad because she clearly only wants his body for her acting
That's what
career.
I thought it was too.
And then he's like, the guy told me that my career is over essentially, and I was like, oh, it's about this totally other thing. Okay.
I got it. I got from the shower scene, I knew what he was upset about. I bought into the whole emotional arc.
How did you get it?
Because that's what he was talking about that episode, that he was going to do the football thing. So when he was upset in the shower.
I forgot.
I also forgot.
Yeah.
The last time we saw him, he was upset at Rachel.
Yep.
Agreed. And here the thing is like, to me, I was expecting a continuation of that disagreement because that's the way television is set up. If you leave off on a cliffhanger, but then you've got those two characters again, you expect them to talk about what happened or it to be very awkward until they do.
Yeah, what happened after he came back with the dessert? What happened? I want to see that scene.
It's in vegan shits.
Yes.
It's in vegan shits.
Yeah, terrific. I will say I think that the football thing is like very much it felt so much more like I've got a biology exam this afternoon. Hope I do well. Oh man, I failed the test. Then my life is crashing before my eyes. This was the one thing I wanted because we didn't get any of that. This was the one thing I wanted.
Yeah.
Honestly, like, I feel like this could have been a much larger storyline anyway. We haven't had a Finn-centric episode in a really long time. This was the perfect opportunity for it.
Yeah.
And I think they set him, I think this was actually a flaw from the early setup in the season where, like, Finn's like, I don't know what I'm going to do, where it was kind of like the show's like, we don't know what we're going to do with Finn. So, like, I feel like
surprise, you want to be a quarterback.
Yeah, I feel like that kind of made this storyline hard to dig into because they didn't set it up because they didn't know what to do with him.
Yeah, it's weird because like if he is literally the quarterback of the team at the high school, right? Like,
and they won a championship title.
Like they're gonna be they're inviting recruiters specifically to show off specific students, right? Like, that's the way it works. And like,
this conversation should be between him and Beast.
Yeah, genuinely. And like, you don't just go to casually be the quarterback of your school's football team. You're doing that because you're looking at going pro, or you're looking at going to a college football team, you know, like, it just seems very like,
college
if
football.
if this was what you wanted to do in high school, this should have been a bigger part of the storyline, honestly, of the whole show.
And yeah, like, if he was gonna go to college football, he was most likely gonna try to go pro, or so it's like.
Then again,
but that's hard to do
he
because
joined
he's in the Glee club. Yeah.
You know?
And it's hard to balance multiple things when you really do want to try to go pro in something.
It's like, if you're like, I want to be a ballet dancer, I want to go to a ballet company, you're going to spend every single day after school going to dance. Yeah. You're going to do dance private lessons. If he wanted to be a professional football player or a college football player, this show wouldn't exist.
Yeah.
Well, I think he does bring up that there is this thing where, because Finn is kind of lost as a character in that he's like, I'm not good enough as a singer to get into NIADA, and I'm not good enough at football to get into Ohio State. And I thought that was a really real moment, because he is someone who's kind of in both worlds, but kind of jack of all trades, master of none.
Yeah.
I will say I super agree with you. I agree with the sentiment, because genuinely, like, I think that conversation, like I said, like the little flashback, I was like, I don't buy this. But then that conversation, I was so invested, because I was like, oh my God, that was me. Like, I was this kid that like wanted to do a little bit of everything. And then at the end of the day, I was like, cool, I'm good at nothing. I'm always second best at every single thing I do. Like, I like super related to him in that moment. And I was like, that was a really real, like, very well done moment.
But just a few episodes ago, Finn was literally like, yeah, I might stay here and like work in Bert's shop. What's bad about that? And I'm like, nothing's bad about that. Go become a mechanic. So
go
like,
to trade school, make more money than any one of your acting friends. Sorry.
Yeah, so like, that's what is really
real.
Confusing about. We're spending so much time on Finn, and like, it was so small.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm kind of like,
I mean,
okay,
like,
guys.
A very legitimate high school experience is not knowing what you're going to do. And I wish they had spent more time on that instead of him having this unattainable dream.
Yeah, so he's upset, and Rachel's like, because he's like, I'm not going to leave this town, I'm not good enough. And she's like, you are special, and I'm going to show you're special by giving you something that no one else is going to get. And he's like, you don't have to do this. And she's like, I want to because I love you. And so they have sex.
Didn't like what she said.
Me neither. I was immediately like, I don't know why I hate it, but why did she say it like that?
Yeah.
It very much was like, my body is a temple and the most important thing on the earth, and you get
access to it. Welcome to my vagina.
I'm a consolation prize.
Yes.
Oh.
I'm a
pity prize
that your dream is over, but you know what? You get my body.
She does have this good line where she says, your dreams haven't died, you've just outgrown them.
Which, that happens to a lot of people.
If he had actual dreams that he had told us about,
I don't necessarily agree with that line. Because
you outgrow
person
your dreams.
Who has, like, always been very, like, career focused, and then, like, my dream job didn't work out for me because the position just doesn't exist, right? Like, and had to leave that. For me, I was like, I don't agree with the sentiment of, like, you outgrew this thing that you can't have because of circumstances that, like, you couldn't have controlled, essentially. Like, even if he's a great football player, they didn't draft him, right? So, like, she's like, you outgrew your dream to him not being chosen for a thing that he wants still. You know, like, to me, I would be mad if someone told, like, if Hannah told me that after I was upset for not getting something I really wanted, I'd be like, screw you, Hannah. That was shitty. Like, why would you say that to me?
You're lucky I'm not written by a Glee writer.
I feel like it might not be the best for that situation, but in general, it is definitely a thing that happens. I mean,
Yeah.
I actually know some, like, this is kind of funny because it's literal, but I think my brother wanted to be an astronaut. He's literally too tall.
Oh,
He literally outgrew his tree.
Oh, David.
See, okay, so in the reboot, Finn's dream,
He wants to be an
astronaut.
and he's like 7 feet too tall.
Wait, Hannah, no, we have to cut it back just a little bit. We want to have realism here. Slice of life.
6.7.
Yeah, that's fine.
Tall.
That's great.
Yeah.
Someone write it down.
He's 9 feet tall.
So
it happens, guys.
Yeah.
You can outgrow your dreams.
Physically. Not even just mentally, physically.
Also happens with people who want to be jockeys.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, they have to be really small. They have to be like 95 pounds or something.
Tiny people.
You know, I will always be an inch too tall to play any character at Disney.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah. The princesses are only like a certain height.
List of dreams that you can, in fact, physically
What's the
outgrow.
height recommendation? Is it
5'7".
Yay! I can be a Disney princess.
5'7".
I'm too fat. I can be Ursula. Cullen, I was Ursula. I was
fair,
Vanessa, and
you can
she
be a
was
Disney
Ariel.
princess if you're anywhere from a size 2 to a size 10.
Still too fat.
Yep. I'm a 12.
I'm talking about me, not Hannah.
okay. So Finn and Rachel have sex.
Oh yeah.
On track.
I would say, like, they were just...
But it's all like kissing and then post-coitus.
Yeah.
I didn't want to say that, but I said it.
They did the thing where in West Side
They did the
Story,
thing.
they're fully
Oh,
It was
yeah.
like you expected a fade to black, but then it went back to it. And they were still clothed, but still kissing. And I don't know.
Yeah.
and Blurt at the same time, we're seeing images of them wrapped together.
Well, I genuinely thought that they were showing us a scene of them post, and they were just lying there cuddling, but then they started kissing more, and I was like, wait, is this round 2? What is being, like, are they doing it? Are they not?
It was the beginning because they were in the same pants.
Oh. Or did they
see,
put
I
their
was
clothes
just-
back on?
Yeah, I think it's West Side Story.
That's a good, that's a conundrum. Tenuous.
It's very deep here.
I'm just using that word haphazardly.
Yeah.
If you
Tenuous.
are listening,
Drink
and taking a
again.
shot, please don't sue us.
Yeah, we are not responsible.
That's
You
our
should be
disclaimer.
drinking water. Stay hydrated. Shots of water.
Yes.
We didn't tell you what to put in your shot glass.
Exactly.
We meant water.
Yeah. So, and they sing, and West Side Story, it cuts to Blaine and Rachel as Tony and Maria singing One Hand, One Heart.
No. Okay, wait. Sorry, continue.
Oh, that's where they make, so they like share the wedding rings, right? And
Yeah.
they're doing like the sexy scenes sort of mashed together. And I'm like, oh, they're connecting it that like marriage and sex are the only things that go
same
together.
thing. I didn't like that at all. I was like, why are you
That's
using
what I
this
read it.
legitimate, him putting the ring on the finger situation as like your passing ground for them having sex for the first time?
Because in West Side Story, that's when the song they sing before they have sex for the first time.
Yes, I agree. I know, but like the fact that that's what they were like, here, like look at me putting the ring on your finger, but
It
then
counts
also
for the Glee characters too, because they use the song to connect those.
Okay,
scenes.
that makes sense.
That's what
I
it
still don't
is.
like it. but I
Everyone
accept
technically
it.
got married.
They're showing you just how every meal is communion, every sex is marriage.
Every sex is.
How many people are his
Literature
Puck married?
101.
What'd you say, Alyssa?
I said, how many people is Puck married?
Oh no, 100.
Well, yeah. Well, or
He
he's
could have married someone
multiple
twice.
people, a couple. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
He got divorced. and
Or
then
like more than twice.
married.
What if it was just one other girl that like was infertile?
This is
then-
so
Okay.
Never mind.
So Artie,
Sorry.
Artie Abrams, the audacious, comes up to Coach Beast while she's welding on the set.
Oh my God! I forgot.
This is
Teacher always
we're on
gets
to
caught.
a new
Storyline.
This is a new storyline.
It's always the Beast
Always
stuff
Beast
for her.
storylines. Always.
Beast storyline. Back at the beginning of the episode.
So audacious sex guru, Artie Abrams.
Comes up and is like, Beast, how come you left when we were talking about SEX? And she's like,
That's when he spells it out.
And he's like, she's like, this conversation is entirely inappropriate.
Okay, why didn't he approach Emma? She left first.
Because she's a prude. She's not going to tell him anything. He wants to actually have a conversation.
So
Probably that's what he's thinking.
So Coach B says the most appropriate thing in this episode when she's like, that is completely inappropriate.
Yes, I know.
Yes.
I was like, thank
And
God
then
someone finally
she
said it.
walks back on it, and then she says, "Okay, I'll bite." And I'm like, "That's
No.
not what you want to say?
No.
You want to say, kid,
I'll
get it?
bite.
I'm giving you a detention."
You spell SEX one more time, you're going straight to the principal's office. That's what it should have been.
Exactly.
Case closed, done deal.
He even picks up her welding mask to talk to her.
Weird.
No. First
That's
of all,
dangerous.
super unsafe.
Yeah.
Very, very unsafe if someone is welding and they're wearing
Also, like
personal
in
safety
translation
equipment
to
for a
modern
reason.
times, COVID.
Also COVID.
And so she explains that she's never had sex before because she's never found the right guy.
To a child.
To a child.
Also, let me just, sorry to interrupt, but for just a second, you've just never found the right person. And then she goes, guys, I'm attracted to guys.
Yeah, that was.
Yeah.
I don't think I'd ever. Maybe this is just the bi in me, but like, I don't get offended when people like. If I actually don't know if many people would get offended if you like just didn't imply a gender. Like, would people?
I think
get mad?
the thing, though. I think the thing to me that like struck with me and why it made me mad that's what they had her say is that my last experience with Beast was literally this whole episode of Shu trying to be the hero that lets her have an experience where she feels pretty enough to be dated, right? And now we're back at this whole scenario and he is making the assumption of like maybe she's into men, even though it's like not like maybe she's into women. Like not rudely he's making any sort of assumption. He just says like
Actually, I think in this case it is
and I feel
him
like,
being rude because
that makes sense.
The implication here is that she would be attracted to women because she looks like a man.
Right, exactly. That's where I was going with
so,
that.
Yeah,
so I think this is just a continuation of the you look like a man, you're never going to be feminine and pretty, and then
it is. I think her reaction to that is her own personal insecurity.
Yes, that's how she felt immediately hearing person.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Like the sort of defensiveness that she gets a lot in this episode, which I find really interesting. And it's kind of heartbreaking that like that's her first response to a lot of things that happen.
Mm-hmm.
I thought that was actually like really, to me, I thought it was like pretty well done. Like,
honestly, Beast's storyline in this episode, like,
was the most
thank
interesting.
God it was actually slightly wholesome. Like,
yeah, Schuster wasn't there at all.
He wasn't there to be pervy or creepy on her. Everything's Gucci.
Yeah. So Artie is, I've just written my notes, Audacity. And then she says that she is interested in the Ohio State recruiter, Cooter Menkins.
Hate that name.
Yeah.
I don't like his mock turtlenecks either. I'm going to say it.
Yeah, he's not my favorite. Myrtle neck. And then, so then he approaches, because we get shots, like scenes of Cooter trying to ask Beast out, and she just doesn't get it. Like, he's like, oh, do you want to go out for lunch? And she's like, oh, I already ate, but you can finish my chili. There's a new
comment she makes. It's really like
I appreciate that, like, in a lot of ways, women in general aren't often allowed to be like gross or like, you know, basically just normal people. And I think like allowing her to do that is funny and like for me a refreshing way, because like I like that kind of humor, but like I also am kind of conflicted with the fact that like her struggling with that sort of masculine presence and people obviously commenting on that all the time and that impacting her. Like I struggle with the fact of like, is this the show allowing
Why
a
are
woman...
they playing it up for humor when this is her real insecurity that she's been feeling the entirety of the show?
Well, what I'm saying is that like allowing a woman to be like just like normal and like say kind of like gross things or whatever, but like are they doing that to sort of amplify her masculine presence?
Yeah.
Or are they doing that to like allow, like, I'm not giving them the credit, but I respect Beast.
I will
so
say
I was
it
like, oh,
make
this is
me
refreshing.
feel like they were trying to amplify that masculine presence all the way up until the moment when she breaks and talks to him for real about her feelings.
It's interesting because if you break down what masculinity is for Beast, it's literally just the absence of femininity. And I think it's really interesting because she is not understanding that Cooter's trying to ask her out because she doesn't believe that she could be asked out.
Yeah.
And that's the same reason why she is also no longer portraying femininity, is because she just kind of gave up on it.
Yeah, I did get that vibe. Like, I think 100% you're right in that whether or not they're playing this kind of humorous, like, masculine concept for any other reason, I think the original writing behind it was probably just make her super oblivious to like the fact that he's making any moves on her whatsoever.
My favorite one was the tube socks.
Yeah, when she's
like, I have a pair if you want to borrow them. It's like, what?
Yeah. And so then Artie approaches Cooter and is like, you need to talk with me in my office. And he's like, is that the handicap stall? And Artie's like, that's hilarious. And I'm like, is it? And then
why does office? What? No, Artie doesn't have an office.
Cooter also, I hate saying that name. He also calls Artie during this conversation Handy. He refers to him as Handy, like short for handicapped.
My subtitles said Andy. I just thought he didn't understand his name was Artie.
Oh, I heard Handy. That's interesting.
You have subtitles?
We should go back and see.
See, that's the thing.
I just like assumed that he was like calling him Handy, like short for handicapped.
That's horrible.
Well, he did was like, you don't mean a handicap stall, so like it's not like it's
a stretch.
Yeah.
Yeah. And Artie's like, you need to ask Beast out, and he's like, she's not interested. I tried to ask her to Applebee's, and she said fancy restaurants make her nervous. And
same. 2-for-1 drinks. You gotta love it.
And he's like, no, you really need to ask her out and make it obvious. So we cut to Beast working out, and Cooter comes in with flowers, and she's like, oh, and I'm done with the weights. You can have them if you want. And he's like, actually, like, here are flowers. I'd like to ask you out. And she's like, why are you doing this?
No. She says, I'm not sick.
And then, are you going to a funeral parlor or something? And he's like,
you go to a graveyard.
Yeah.
I'm not sick.
Why are you giving me flowers?
And then he's like, no, I'm giving them to you. I want to ask you out. Like on an honest to God sit down date where you dress up like a lady and I dress up like a gentleman. And she's like, who put you up to this? And I'm like, Artie. And he's like, nobody.
Yeah, we're all like, it was Artie.
And so she agrees to go on a date with him. She's nervous about it, but she's excited. So they're going to go on a date after the game on Friday.
I was really sad for her when her first reaction was, who put you up to this?
I legitimately teared up a little bit because I was like, you know, it's really sad because like, even just thinking back to like being really young and like naive and insecure, like that that feeling of like nobody could ever like me enough possibly to ever want to be with me is how she's lived her entire life. And the fact that she literally refuses to accept that he could possibly be interested in her because she sees no value in herself whatsoever. So I was like, I'm not gonna cry, but I am a little bit, and I'm really glad she's finally like being able to be treated as she should be by a guy.
I read that as like this has happened in the past where someone like tricked her by like asking her out and then like made fun of her and took it away and stuff like that. Like that's immediately like the backstory that like hit me, even though like it's not even really even like that implied. Like it could mean many different things. So
but I picked up on that backstory too, so I think they were trying to put that in there.
I mean, that's something that happens way too often, I want to say.
Yeah, and just in general.
Why is that a thing that guys like to do?
I don't know.
Cullen? We could unpack that. Well, all the times I fake ask somebody out.
Yeah. I don't know. I mean, I think there's just something really intimate about someone asking you out and having those like feelings of like, oh my God, someone likes me. And then having that not only just ripped away from you to like, no, I didn't like you, but also like know that people were watching and like planning this. It's like embarrassing and so many levels to it. So like, honestly, I have to say like to give that kind of backstory, even if not everyone got it, or even if it's not even like totally implied, is actually pretty impressive for like a small moment like that.
I agree.
In writing.
Yeah.
So Artie's Coach B's story is done. We see her and Cooter at the game or at the play.
At the theater game.
At the theater game. Go with Team West Side Story.
Like, what is this place?
A movie theater?
Yeah, he called it a movie theater. I was like, you're not that stupid. I was like, you are a human being. You're not that stupid.
Have you ever seen a play? Do you know what a play is?
But Artie's story goes on because right before the play, he's like, he panics and he's like, everything's wrong. This is all wrong. They're going to know I'm a huge fraud. Like the set, the costumes, the direction, everything. And Emma's like, Artie, you were brilliant. And then Tina's like, oh, we want to talk to you. And they bring him flowers and they thank him.
It's a mutiny.
Yes.
I actually thought that was really funny. I was like, it's a mutiny.
And they thank him, and
this is where we find out that everyone in Glee Club is actually also in the musical.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just put that out there.
Mercedes wasn't in it though.
Mercedes was watching from the audience.
She's not in the Glee Club.
Mercedes is not in the Glee Club.
Yeah. So she's not in the Glee Club anymore.
You know what? The Glee Club's assignment was, please be in a musical. We need singers. That's what it was.
Yeah. Shu wrote on the board. No, Artie wrote on the board. Singers, help.
And I actually thought this moment where they thank him and he's like, you know, being in a chair, people always coddle you and it's nice to feel like a man. I don't know about the it's nice to feel like a man, that whole aspect of it, but I thought them thanking him for his guidance and his panic, that as someone who's connected with me, because on the eve of my first musical, I had like a meltdown and was like, thought I wasted everyone's time and ruined everything for everyone and I was never going to do anything with my life. So like I connected with Artie more than I ever have before. So I was like, oh my gosh, this episode humanized Artie in the same episode that he was the most audacious man.
Yeah, but also like they humanized him in a way that they make fun of his chair situation so often, literally every freaking second that he is on screen is a wheelchair joke. And I literally was like, I think that this is the first time I have ever heard him say something serious and real about being in a wheelchair that I believe and like I actually had an emotional response to.
Yeah, I think if it was less opposed of like being a man, I think he also was kind of like more like being grown up and being self-sufficient. I thought was
self-sufficiency
really
is like, you know, you think you're never going to be able to do things by yourself or for yourself, and people are always going to think you need help, and like to have people actually let me do that was empowering.
Yeah, and I think like, but he does equate it a lot to like growing up, and I'm like, I don't think it's necessary. Like, it's really more of a other people respecting me kind of thing.
Yeah. The line that I most related to is the one where what was it that he said, like, people don't know how to react or something like that?
Yeah, he was like, people like,
they're afraid of saying the wrong thing.
Yes, exactly.
Which I'm like, everyone except for apparently the people in this Glee club. But
they are not afraid to say the wrong thing, and they say it all the time.
Yeah. But so actually, I like this moment.
Mm-hmm. I did too. It was one of my more favorite moments of this episode.
And then they do America. This from West Side Story. We get a shot of them doing America. They're all Puck is Bernardo. They're all using fake accents.
Yeah, question.
The accents are not good.
So
accents are
I actually posed this question to Ginger because I was like, okay, a high school production or any production that involves mostly white people, would they be doing accents or would they be speaking normally and just like getting away with it? Like, what do you guys think? Because I've never seen this live. I've only seen the movie. So like, I don't know what would likely happen.
I think it depends on the director.
Okay.
At the school, I will say, in my high school, we did shows that were like set in New York City, and we all had to have the New York accents. But then we did a show with a new music director who came in, and we did Aida, and we were all cast as the Nubians, a school full of literally white people, and one black performer who played Aida. And we're all supposed to be the Nubian people, and we were like, I'm very uncomfortable. Like, please don't ask me to do absolutely anything other than be a normal person acting like a person living in this time period with no reference to the color of our skin or our culture, please.
Yeah. That's what I was wondering, because I was like, I get why they would do some sort of accent, but I'm like,
I mean, my answer was hypothetically they should have Spanish performers.
Yeah.
Hypothetically.
Ideally. But we also talked about how, like, West Side Story at this point in time was not necessarily a controversial choice for high schools to do, right?
Yeah.
So, like, but I think what makes it more controversial is the fact they're
doing accents.
Yeah, and I'm like,
but I also think this is a thing,
but it's not the Wiz
that aged poorly. Again, like there was a lot of stuff in theater that was overlooked for ages and ages and ages, and the modern day has really criticized theater. Think about how many years that people have been casting inappropriately, you know, or like having actors do inappropriate things for roles. So I think that, like, again, back when they wrote this, they were like, it'd be really funny if the accents were terrible. And they didn't think anything else of it, of like, this could be racially insensitive, you know?
Yeah. Honestly, I would say if it was I would say no accents.
Yeah,
just because it's gonna be hard for high schoolers to
that's what I thought too. But I mean, these aren't normal high schoolers. These are uber talented high schoolers.
I guess. I don't know. Like, we didn't do accents in any of our high school productions, and I'm sorry that they made you do New York accents. I apologize.
I appreciate your sympathy.
She's like, it was fine. I nailed it.
So they're singing America. They have what's his name? Rory is playing a Puerto Rican, and I'm like the Irish kid.
And Beast in the audience is like, we gotta work on this kid's diction. And I'm like, yeah, it's literally like kind of the accent, but mostly just his Irish accent. And I'm like, oh,
it didn't even sound like an Irish accent. It just sort of like he vomited a sentence.
He vomited sounds.
Right.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh.
And then Artie works in the jets into America, and they come out, and they sing part of the song. And this really happens because of Mike Chang's storyline, which let's quickly touch on. Mike Chang's dad Mike Chang Sr. approaches him and is like, you didn't tell me that you were in the musical. You lied to me. I heard your mother talking about it on the phone. You made a liar out of her too. He's like, Dad, I don't want to be a doctor. I want to be a professional dancer.
Which, okay, doesn't make any sense at all, because last time we saw him with his mother, she's like, okay, if you get this part, we're going to go tell your dad together, which he obviously did not.
Didn't happen.
I
wimped out.
Yeah, I thought of that too.
Happen.
Yeah. So like, he should have been like, no, I want you to drop out of the musical. Not, you didn't tell me.
Yeah, exactly.
Again,
Also,
every episode of Glee exists in a separate universe every time.
I literally wrote down in all caps, cool, Asian story sideline like usual.
And then I told her, I was like, hey, the Asian F episode had that story sideline. So
there too. And to me, it's like, not only is this taking an extremely stereotypical approach to the Asian experience for this show, but it's completely sidelining it as this isn't as important as Finn's apparent attempt we didn't know about to join.
We know what Mike wants to do.
We've known what Mike wants to do, and Mike is like strong enough to stand up to his father. This is way more
heartbreaking,
which is
to me.
So like, I was very emotionally impacted, and I was like, why didn't this get a bigger storyline?
It was such a small moment for how hugely impactful this would have been on Mike's character. His father literally disowns him in the middle of his high school hallway.
Yeah. Literally at his locker. Like, he's never going to be able to open his locker the same way ever again.
It was so tiny.
We'll make an entire other episode in the reboot called The Locker.
Yes.
And it will be about his PTSD of this moment.
Yes.
For the rest of his high school career.
Okay, so here's the thing, going back to Finn in parallel with this. Finn, he has not singularly wanted something at all this season. Really, we don't know. And that's what makes a protagonist, right? Who wants the strongest desire. We know this. You have Mike, we know what he wants. And like, even such a small moment like this, because it got so sidelined, way more impactful, because we know that he wanted it, and he's having this.
He should be the protagonist.
That's it. Mike Chang, protagonist of the Gleeboot.
I think our work here is done.
Just to wrap that up, podcast is over, guys. Bye.
Bye.
Because his dad is like, well, no son of mine is going to do this, and Mike is like, well, I guess I don't have a dad anymore, and it's this really impactful scene.
I just also,
that's
like,
intense.
As like a 25-year-old adult who's had like these kind of discussions with their father this past year, like, it's an extremely emotional experience. And like, being in high school, like, surrounded by people that you know, like, your age.
Again,
like,
why are they just letting people
that
in
is
the high school?
Absolutely ridiculously traumatic. Like, the fact that that this, if this has this much of an impact on an adult that has their life together and has no financial obligations or like social obligations or like parental obligations to their, and not even to mention cultural obligations, because if you're expected to house your parents when they're too old, right, or like continuously serve your household in a specific way, like based on what your family expects of you, like at that young age, like if this kind of an interaction has such an impact on somebody that doesn't necessarily have to have ties to this person to have a fulfilling life, if you're this young and your entire like life revolves around your parents' ability to, like, your ability to do things with the money that your parents give you, or like he's gonna have to go work 3 jobs, or like it's very, very intense. And like, it was just brushed aside so much that I was very impacted by that moment, and I was just really like sad to see it brushed aside so pushed in the corner. Like, it could have been a whole episode for him. It really could have.
We really don't know anything about his home life, or like if this is going to be an issue between his mom and his dad. Is his dad going to kick him out of the house?
In the audience.
Do you think they're relying on our knowledge of stereotypes about Asian parents and families to fill in the gaps about that? Do you think so?
Probably.
Oh my goodness.
Because you just said like we don't, and I'm like, you're right. But I think I do, only because they're using stereotypes and like characteristics that I have learned to be possibly true. I don't know. So yeah, like they're probably just relying on.
Well, I hate it. I don't.
Yeah, I hate it, and I want it to stop.
Yeah.
I mean, Quinn was kicked out of her house. Like, is this what's gonna happen to Mike? Like, I don't understand.
Yeah, we don't understand the implications of it.
No.
Yeah.
We see his mom in the audience of West Side Story, and there's an
She's
empty
so
chair.
proud.
I know.
She's
She
so
looks
sweet.
so proud.
And
Love
she's so happy. And
I
he
did
looks.
What did
not
we say her
notice
name
the empty
was?
chair at all.
What did we name her? Susan?
Susan. Yeah, Susan Chang. She was so proud, and there's an empty chair next to her, and Mike kind of looks sadly at the empty chair.
I didn't notice it at all.
Well, it was.
There.
And yeah,
It's not a long shot. It's pretty quick too. So
Well, I
That
guess
makes
I
sense.
just figured that she was sitting next to an empty chair because nobody was sitting there. Like, that's how my high school
she's not saving the seat.
the high school productions I was in, like, there were definitely a lot of empty seats.
Oh my god.
So, but that's the end of the storyline. So that's.
Can I just say that I was really hoping that they would show Mike's really good dancing skills?
I know. I kept waiting for it.
We already saw it.
I was like,
episodes ago.
I was just like, his mom is here and she's looking all right. He's gonna come out and do some sort of really awesome solo, and then she just smiles at him backstage, and he smiles, and I was like,
That's
He's
it.
like not even on the stage.
I know.
He has one line. And
I was upset.
I just really wanted him to do something like cool for his mom. I wanted that, and it didn't happen.
So in the reboot, he's gonna have a really cool solo.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And he's gonna have an entire episode dedicated to his family life.
Yes.
And
I
this
just
issue
would like to say, I know I'm slightly skipping ahead, but Santana gets a whole episode dedicated to her issues with her family life and other people's opinions about her.
So many characters have these kind of things, and it's like I feel like they choose the most random times to give characters who are actually really interesting moments, and they just never really develop them.
Yeah.
It kind of sucks.
Yeah. Speaking of that, it is Tina time.
She got 13 lines.
Whoa, double digits.
Yes,
Dang.
I give the.
So does this include her singing in the song, or is it just speaking?
It includes where she says, "I know you do."
Okay.
But
that is a sung line.
It's a sort of sung line. It's in the song, but it's spoken. So I counted it.
Yep, that counts. We got to take him where we can get him.
True.
This was a big episode for Tina. She thanked Artie. She talked about sex positivity.
Mm-hmm.
She saved a scene about sex positivity.
Yes. Cullen counted the lines. I did not. I looked at his notes when I said that.
Nice.
Yes. Honesty, transparency with
Love
our
it.
listeners.
Yes, transparency with the listeners.
I want them to trust us.
What is the equivalent of transparency for voice and sound?
I don't know. I get what you're saying. Like transparency
is a visual thing.
But it is also abstract as well.
It is an abstract idea.
Yeah.
But I just want to know if there is
an equivalent. Let us know.
Auditory sensing. I just want to know.
All right. And now it's time for MVPs and LVPs.
This is like our 4th etymology lesson from Alyssa. Like where she's just like wants to know something about a word, or like we're explaining something about a phrase or word. Amazing.
You are all very welcome.
Alyssa is doing her best to educate us, and we just want to talk about Glee.
I'm doing my best to educate you. I'm doing my best to educate myself. Nobody knows anything.
True.
She's like, I'm surrounded by idiots, so.
I'm trying to better myself. Come on. Be smarter.
So, Ginger, who is your least favorite character in this episode?
Sebastian. Trying to home wreck my OTP.
Trying to ruin Blurt.
God.
They can't ruin Blurt.
I love Blurt so much. It's so good. My LVP is Artie, because he tried to be everyone's sex guru, and the fact that he talked to teachers about sex
Uncomfy.
and in front of sex, super inappropriate. Should have had a detention.
In front of sex?
Yeah, in front of teachers.
Oh.
I have been blasted by the word sex in this episode, and then also having to talk about the episode that literally it's the only word that's coming out of my sex. So that one was planned.
You don't say.
Yes, he's talking about sex in front of teachers. And it's like, you should have detention for the rest of the year.
I'm gonna go with Rachel because she is totally taking advantage of Finn in this episode, and she doesn't even realize it, which is kind of a new low for her. Like most of the time she's like, oh yeah, I need this because I need this thing done. But in this episode, she's more like, I need this and I also love you. She
tells him to actively ignore what she just said.
Yep.
And just
it's very, she's just, I don't know.
Yeah, valid.
It's just kind of gross.
She was my second choice.
Yeah.
Oh, this is actually really hard. Usually I know because it's Glee and it's like just so obvious. I think I'm going to go with Sebastian as well. I would have picked Artie, except for the moment where I connected with him as a director that saved him in the final spot. So I'm going with Sebastian for being pretentious and
for being named Sebastian Smythe.
Rachel went through a period of growth and learned about how she should view sex, and then Artie had a very real emotional moment that I was able to connect to. But Sebastian just sucks, and he knows that he sucks, and he doesn't care that he sucks. You know what I mean?
See, I respect that. So
to have the balls to do that,
just know that you suck, but keep sucking.
Oh,
sorry. I should have said that in an episode that had sex in it every 2 seconds.
Thanks.
But Ginger, who is your MVP? Who is your favorite character?
I said Tina.
Good choice.
For her moment of clarity that I super agreed with and thought was very important and very needed and made the whole episode bearable.
Yeah, I second that. Tina for having that really good perspective at a very necessary moment in the episode and the series.
I'm going to go with her other Asian half, Mike.
Oh, Mike.
Aww.
Yeah, he had such a small storyline this episode, but I really wish that it was bigger, and I want to get more behind his decision to go after dance instead of being a doctor or whatever his dad wants him to be.
And he was so strong, like standing up to his dad.
Yeah, it's hard to do that with your parents, and I'm behind him. So, Mike,
good choice.
Win.
I'm going with Finn. I really connected to his feeling lost, and like the line where like, I'm not good enough at singing or at sports, and I just connected with that because like when I was trying to figure out what I wanted to do, I was like, well, I'm not a good enough actor to be an actor or a singer to be a singer. Like, so I connected with that. And I thought he did his performance was really impeccable.
Yeah, he did have a lot of great performances.
Yeah. But I also really considered Tina for her. I wrote in my notes for her Tina time. This was the show giving her Tina time. So, yeah. Now songs. So we didn't have many songs this episode. We had Tonight. We had A Boy Like That / I Have a Love. We have America, One Hand, One Heart, and then Uptown Girl just randomly. So Ginger, what was your least favorite song?
Probably America because of the accent thing. But I do have to say, like, with the disclaimer, Santana is excluded from all criticism. She was perfect.
Yes.
Yeah, I second that from like head to toe. Like, the accents threw me off, and also like this was the moment where like I was watching it and I'm like, I don't think I like the music in West Side Story.
She said that out loud.
I was like, I kind of think I'm realizing that, so I need to go back and watch it, because obviously Glee is not like the best representation of anything.
They're remaking it, right? There's a new one supposed to be coming out soon.
Yeah.
Is
And
there?
Ooh, I'd be interested to watch that.
they are remaking it into a movie, but I don't know who's been casted or who's directing or anything.
Interesting.
I don't even remember where I heard it.
Still waiting for In the Heights to come out. So
Well,
if COVID could
it's
stop,
pushed,
that'd be cool.
It was pushed out a whole year, which
I
makes
know.
me really sad because I was looking
They
forward to
probably,
it so much.
they probably didn't even finish Principal, and then COVID happened. They're like, God damn it.
We're on songs. I'm gonna go with One Hand, One Heart. It was kind of boring. I don't really like it anyway. Yeah.
I think that's a valid choice. Honestly.
Yeah.
I second that. Because even when I listen to West Side Story, because I like the song America. I like West Side Story. But One Hand, One Heart is boring.
Yeah. It's just a boring
It's no one's
song.
favorite West Side Story song. No one's like, West Side Story, One Hand, One Heart, right? It's like...
Someone in the comments is going to sound off and be like, how dare you?
It's just my favorite song. Well, you have bad taste.
But Ginger, what was your favorite song?
Obviously, One Hand, One Heart. 200% Uptown Girl. I will die by my decisions.
I picked Tonight because like I think it's the only song that was from West Side Story in this episode that I was like, oh yeah, I like this song. I don't think I really cared for Uptown Girl. I prefer the original. I'm married to the original, so to speak. Also, did this already happen that Tina sang this for a Glee club in like a brief moment? Okay, that's what I thought, because I was like, wait a second, they technically did this song before.
They did. They doubled down. They did the same song twice.
Wow, recycling music. What does the show become?
Trash.
You heard it here first.
You have bad taste if you like whatever that one song is called. And then Glee is trash.
What's my favorite song? Okay. I am really, really torn between Tonight and Uptown Girls.
Uptown Girl.
One singular.
Multiple Uptown Girls.
There's a lot of girls uptown, okay?
Yeah, and they're all uptown.
I'm gonna go with Tonight because it matches the episode better.
It does. Uptown Girl was so out of place.
It was seriously really
The
out
Warblers
there.
were so out of place.
It
The only reason
was.
they're there is because they're probably going to come back in the future.
I sang to both of them. I like both of the songs, but Tonight just fits the episode better, so I'm going with that one.
I'm going to go with A Boy Like That / I Have a Love.
Oh.
I love that song. It's a big lyrical, like, and musical inspiration to me in, like, my own songwriting. And I love the use in the episode. And I thought Rachel and Santana were, like, just amazing in it. Like, their costumes, their performance.
Yes.
Oh my goodness.
Their voices sound really,
Give
really
me
good
more
together.
musical theater, Rachel, please, and
Yeah.
more Santana in general.
Actually, I love all of the dresses from that time period.
It was good.
Mhm.
Yeah.
They're all really pretty.
Yeah.
So that brings us to the end of our episode. Ginger, you're somewhat of a social media star, so do you want to Do you want to plug your somies?
Sure. So I have a cosplay Instagram. It's at @that_SEW_ginger. And you can find me there making things.
Yay.
Even in the era of COVID, still making stuff, still dressing up, still doing awesome stuff. Making awesome art.
All of these beautiful people here that make awesome art every week. New Glee.
We are also on Instagram and Twitter and TikTok. We are at Gleeboot Pod on all three of those. And then we're also gleebootpod.tumblr.com on Tumblr.
You can follow my other podcast at Wanderers Cove Podcast on Instagram. And check us out wherever you get your podcast, Wanderers Cove.
Mm-hmm. And you can follow my Instagram at a.m.swearingen, SWEARINGEN. I haven't been posting a lot lately because work has me working a lot of overtime.
Making that money.
Monies.
Dollar bills, y'all.
I do try to post when I make stuff. So,
like Suki's collar.
Yes, her collar. So cute. It matches her eyes.
I'll have to hit you up for one for Fiero.
Ooh.
Oh my god, that'd be cute.
Yes.
They could be like matching.
Aww.
Podcasts.
Oh, well, thank you, Ginger, so much for joining us.
Well, thank you for having me. I just feel like now I just am weirdly alert to Coach Beast's character development.
Yeah, well, we'll keep you updated.
Keep you posted on that. We hope you had a good time. We hope our listeners had a good time listening. Tune in next week for the mash off.
Boop, boop.
Exciting stuff.
Again?
Another mash off.
Alyssa's so over it. Again, more mashups?
Thanks, guys.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.